I'd like to open the Board of Selectmen's meeting Monday, July 22nd, 2019, at 6:30. Can we please pledge allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we don't have anyone for the resident and public comment. So Ed, do you want to read the warrants?
Sure. Approved payroll warrant 20-03, $180,503.54.
Any second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Bill warrant 20-03, the amount of $1,336,166.85.
Second?
You want to break that down?
Sure.
Town, $150,509.85.
Water and sewer,
Excuse me?
water and sewer.
Uh,
Is done.
Yeah, my glasses were fogging. Water and sewer, $1,545, and payroll withholding, $27,862.52. Light bills, $290,017.22. Grants and revolving, $41,190.37. Pentucket assessment, $822,041.75.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
We didn't get a second.
Oh, all right, go back. Second? Second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Okay, we approved the minutes of the June 10th, 2019 meeting.
I'll move that.
Any, get a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Abstain. Bill, you weren't here either.
All right, the minutes from the June 24th, 2019 meeting.
They look to be in order. I'll move for passage.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Moving on, we have the discussion and possible vote. Groveland Day Committee seeking permission to hold a 5K on Friday. Hello there.
Hello. So I'm Lisa Chandler. I'm the chairperson for the committee to bring back Groveland Day. Groveland Day will be held on Saturday, September 7th this year. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I can answer any questions about that, but we're here to seek permission to hold a road race the evening before. So the road race itself would start at about 6 p.m. Right now, our current route we are planning would actually leave from right out here, run up to the high school, loop back towards the middle school, and run back. I've been in contact with both police and fire. They have no issues. They can support us in any of the routes that we choose. Right now, the thinking would be that the police would just kind of flank the runners, one at the beginning of the line and one at the end of the line, and kind of just shepherd us down and around. We would also be seeking to hold like a post-race party after the race down here at the Pines. It would include a food truck, which would be covered by the entrance race costs, as well as a beer truck. The first beer would be included in your race costs, and any additional beers would have to be purchased by the runners themselves. We've been in contact with Lexi's Burger Bus out of Newburyport, and both Ipswich Ale and Newburyport, so we're trying to work out which of those, but either of those, it would be the same scenario. It would be for a 2-hour window after, so the most runners will finish sometime between 6:30 and 7 p.m. It takes people generally a half hour to an hour, depending on your skill level, to finish a 5K. So we would be looking for pretty much from 5:30 to 9:30 would be our setup, race, party, breakdown. And then everyone would come back Saturday morning to start Groveland Day all fresh and new and revised. We would be capping it at a maximum of 125 people this year, just to kind of bring it back, get everyone excited again, but not kind of overwhelm ourselves. We are kind of getting down to the wire. It's about 6 weeks away from now. 125 people is manageable, both from the party aspect as well as just the race aspect. It's not too many runners at once. I don't even know that we could get that many, but that's as many as we would have running. The race typically was held either the morning of Groveland Day, or in some cases, it was held the night before. We were very fortunate that Norwood Insurance was willing to sponsor this race specifically to bring it back. So they are what we're calling a presenting sponsor of Groveland Day itself, and they're giving us a very generous donation, which is making this possible. We've been doing a really good job. Actually, we've so far raised over $10,000 for Groveland Day itself. We have a number of supporters. We've had a few fundraisers around town, so we've gotten the word out. Everyone seems very excited that we're bringing it back. We'll have a lot of fun things for the kids to do. There'll be bounce houses. There's a mechanical bull. There's a dunk tank. We've been able to get Dr. Bartholomew and Mr. Day to agree to be in the dunk tank and possibly get dunked by the students. We've got a couple of raffle items that we're raffling off, including free 3 weeks at the Groveland Summer Rec Program for next summer. Trying to think of what else we have. There's a number of vendors coming, arts and crafts for the kids. The trackless train, we're running the first annual 3x3 basketball tournament for kids in grades 5 through 12, so they can join. We're offering community service hours to any of the middle and high school students that they need for graduation, so we have kind of a number of things set up that people can sign up to volunteer to help us out on the day of. We're looking to do, there'll be pony rides. Curious Creatures is coming. We have a DJ set up, so we're keeping it kind of almost back to its roots, a little smaller than what it had grown to in the end of Groveland Day, but still a lot of fun for everyone to come out and enjoy the day. Hopefully we get some good weather, because we don't really have a backup plan at this point. And yeah, so we're very excited, but like I said, tonight we're here just to seek permission to do the road race itself. But if you have any questions concerning the race or Groveland Day, I'd be more than happy to answer any of the questions.
Well, I would like to say thank you on behalf of the board for all you and your committee and all the hard work they've been doing. It seems like you guys are, moving right along, and, seem like you're anxious and willing to get it done, so.
Yeah, we're trying.
Thank you. And then I'll see if anyone on the board has anything they want to say first. Go ahead.
In the paperwork here, you have the road race starting and finishing at Washington Park. Was that a
We were going to do that, and then, so Jill is our treasurer. She's also an avid runner, and she started running that course and realized that ending a race on a hill isn't exactly the most fantastic way to do that. So the more we looked at it, the kind of flattest course we could do while still being safe and kind of doing a loop is here. When I had met with police chief, we had talked about doing a couple of different combinations, maybe starting kind of down here and ending at VC Park, but then you get into having to shuttle people back and forth when you don't do a loop, and it gets kind of complicated and just from all aspects. So we're trying to keep it as flat as we can, knowing that that's darn near impossible around here, but at least not ending on a hill. Our other kind of concern, as the more we looked at Washington Park, would be to have the party there at the end. You're kind of in people's backyards. It could be a little disruptive. It'll still be early in the evening, but we're trying not to put anyone out. At least if we were down here at the Pines, you're kind of set back from anyone's homes. There won't really be any music or anything for the party. The food trucks have little like megaphones, kind of like ice cream trucks have, and they'll be able to play some music, but it's not going to be like a PA system kind of.
How do you get to Washington Park without going up a hill?
That's what I mean. So we actually are going to change the course from being that to be here. So if you were here, it's still slightly a hill to run up towards the high school and back, but it's a little more manageable than all of a hill all at once that you hit with Washington Park.
From my experience with these things, if you get the kids in town involved, you'll get the parents to come.
Sure.
And that goes for about everything.
Yep. That's
You
our
have
hope.
activities for the kids.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually I'd say overwhelmingly for the kids. It's running from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So, I mean, there'll be some things for adults, there'll be some vendors and some things like that, but it's mostly just fun for the kids and everyone can come along.
Are you good, Ed?
Yeah, I'm good.
Kathy, you good?
I just was, obviously, I think it's great you're doing the 5K race and all, and I think it's great that you're including an after party, but this is just for the runners, is it? So restricted to just the runners?
Right now, we would restrict it to just the runners. If for some reason we only had maybe 75 runners, we would consider maybe selling tickets for just the party, but we would still cap it at 125 people. So we could make up the difference in the people, and we would probably charge, right now, we would be charging $30 per runner. That would include a T-shirt, a meal from the burger bus, and one drink.
Nice.
Anything, if they weren't running, we would probably knock it down to $20 to do just the party, but we really don't want it to be more than 125 people, at least for not this year. It's a little short notice for us to really manage more than that. So it would be a ticketed event, so it's not open to the public, it's just if you were to purchase a race ticket. That's not to say if you were to purchase a race ticket that you actually have to run, you could just come for the party, I suppose. If you want to spend the extra $10, you get a free T-shirt, you don't have to run, and you still get a beer and a burger. But part of the other thing that we had been looking into would be to split the proceeds from the race. Half would go back towards Groveland Day so that we can continue this next year, and the other half foundation so that they could, their foundation usually is set up to buy them gear and vests and all sorts of things like that that they need. So I've been in talks with Chief Gillen to kind of set that up of how we could make that work for them. They have been very helpful in kind of helping us navigate all of this. They will have a booth set up at Groveland Day to do car seat safety checks. We'll also have a fire truck and ambulance and a police car for the kids to kind of play in and do kind of like a mini touch-a truck. I was gonna reach out to the highway department too and see if we could get like a dozer or something for the kids to play in.
Something big, right?
Something big that makes a lot of noise that kids like to climb on, yeah, so.
Yes, it sounds amazing. So are the police voluntarily helping you that evening, so for crowd control and for making sure
No,
that
so
you
we
can-
actually will have to pay for a detail. Unfortunately, they can't donate their time, though. They have
Okay.
said more than once that they would love to be able to, they can't. So part of what our costs would include would be covering police details for them. We also have to have 2 police details for Groveland Day itself so that they could direct traffic in and out of the
Oh, okay,
Pines.
good.
So that's all accounted for in our budgets.
Great.
We'll also have some EMTs on hand for the race, just in case anyone gets heat exhaustion, rolls an ankle, stuff like that. So the fire department is able to handle that for us. They're trained in EMT, and then, God forbid, if there were a bigger incident that someone had to be transported, we would just have to call for an
Right, no,
ambulance.
obviously. No, it sounds like you've got it all covered, it sounds
We've been
like.
trying, we've been
I
trying.
think so. Thank you. You guys have done a great job.
Yeah, so Lisa, I just want to comment. So I've spoken with the chief, and actually, I don't think it's appropriate to have money go to the police association through this fundraiser. It is a Groveland Day committee running a Groveland Day event.
Okay.
He has spoken to, or he said he was going to reach out to Norwood Insurance and see if, instead of donating the full proceeds to you, they would donate half to the association, so it's not through this fundraising effort.
Okay.
Because it just muddies the water. They're not under our tax ID. It's just,
Sure.
it's a separate organization
Nope, that's
altogether.
fine.
So that's the only part that I'm not quite comfortable with.
Sure.
All right. Bill? Mike?
Did you mention anything about a one-day liquor license for the beer and alcohol?
I didn't, that was part of why I had to come and talk to you guys. So, Ipswich Ale and Newburyport Brewing both have gotten them before in the past, because they've both been part of Groveland Day in the past. So they're familiar with it, it's just a question of which one we sit up with. The way the Newburyport Brewing works is we essentially buy the beer from them wholesale, and then they resell it. But we're not on the hook for anything, because it's just cans of beer, so if it's not open, they just take it back and we don't have to pay for it. Whereas Ipswich, because it's kegs of beer, there's a minimum that we have to meet. So we're kind of weighing the options of which is more beneficial to us. I don't think that we would have much trouble meeting the minimums and talking with Ipswich Ale. It's just a question of if the committee feels like, and again, we have plenty of money from Groveland Day itself, so it's not that we can't cover the minimum, it's just, do we want to spend that money on that, or do we want to
Right.
just go kind of the safe route with buy a can of beer and be on your way and.
Okay, yeah,
and
I
take
just
it.
want to make sure that that's covered.
Yep, no,
prior
so
to,
that'll be,
'cause
that'll be covered, and that would be something that they would sign up with you guys directly, correct? Or would we have to
I
do
think
it?
you would have to.
It technically depends. We'll need their insurance, they will need their liability insurance, so it doesn't matter if you reach out to me
Okay.
or they do, but
Sure.
I can't really process it until we have their
The
liability
insurance,
insurance.
okay.
And did you mention what the registration fee was for the road race?
So the road race would be $30 per runner, and it'll include a T-shirt, a meal from the burger bus, and one drink.
Okay. That's it?
Bill?
Will this insurance company be underwriting this race at all? Or is there any insurance required in running that race?
Well, they are a town of Groveland organization,
Okay, so there'll
so
be,
it's our insurance.
Right.
Just not the liability on liquor, that would be the server.
Right.
will the racers actually enter into West Newbury?
No,
So they'll turn around at the middle
we'll have
school?
them turn around at the middle school, yeah.
And will you be closing, partially closing any of the road?
When I had spoken with the chief previously, before we had really nailed down a route, they talked about partially closing just the one lane. So they would keep traffic flowing in one lane and allowing it to go the other way. And then they would kind of flip it, so once all the runners kind of, so if they're shepherding us down and then turning us around, they would keep outbound closed while we're running, and then they would keep inbound closed when everyone's turning around, and they would switch it. Now that we kind of have the definitive route, I haven't finalized everything with the chief, but they seem to think that no matter what, they would be able to kind of detour everyone around and still keep one lane open in whichever direction.
Okay. Is this going to be a rain or shine event?
It will be.
Um,
Hopefully shine, but I've run plenty of races in the rain, and I'll do a lot to get a beer at the end, but it's nicer when it's sunny.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, Mike wanted something.
The 3.2 miles, it seems a little bit convoluted to go up Main Street, turn around, and then come back down Main Street, affecting traffic and everything else. What's the route if you come out of here and then go up King Street and then, what's that, Governor's Road, and then back around towards
We
Seven
thought about
Star?
that one too, and
Yeah.
the King Street Hill is very fun to
Yeah, but it's
run.
not all the way up King Street.
It wouldn't be
right?
all the way up. There was a route that we had looked at that utilized kind of Seven Star and kind of looped around also. So we're trying to work out the easiest way for them to direct traffic. And ultimately, if the chief says, I want you to run this
Right.
way because it's easier for me to shut these roads, then that's what I'm going to
Right,
do.
that's what I was
'cause-
gonna say. If Jeff says that this is the best way for us, then it's
Right,
obviously the best way. I
right.
was just
So,
thinking that.
but in my meeting with him, he seemed to think that really anything, as long as we weren't trying to shut down the intersection at the bridge, was fair game.
Okay.
Because one of our earlier concepts was to utilize the bridge, but then we also had to deal with Haverhill.
Right.
And then shutting down that intersection at rush hour on a Friday night. It wasn't really
Right.
the easiest thing for him to swallow. So basically, as long as we stay on one side of the intersection or the other, he seemed to think that we could come up with some combination of detours and lane closures to make really anything work. But again, I kind of wanted to walk it or drive it with him. I'm not going to walk 3 miles with him, but drive it with him so that he really could see it, because everything looks okay on paper until you get out there and really start
So are
looking
you
at.
you gonna run up to the middle school, to the
Enter the
driveway,
middle school.
or into the,
Enter the driveway to make the mileage work.
yeah,
But if we kept going, you technically cross just into West Newbury to
Right.
turn around, which we're trying to avoid, which I'm sure that the chiefs could probably work out, and that it would be totally fine
I
if we
just
were
see
to
a
do that,
big
because it's
pile
like,
up of people going into there
going in
and
and turning around.
Yeah.
It would, there's kind of enough room to loop it, but it also really, I have to look at it, the one unknown, I don't know how many runners that we will actually wind up with, and their skill levels and paces. So you kind of have to try to pace people so that the fastest people are out and out of the way. I've run many races like this that are out and back, and it's very disheartening when you're running and then you see the guys that's already on his way back, and you're like, oh, I'm never going to get there. So we're trying to find the best way to kind of get people in and around. I still think that by capping it at a maximum of 125 people, it's a manageable amount, because they're going to start to weed themselves out. It's not going to be 125 people at once trying to do everything. But the other course would utilize probably part of King Street and back around, and it would just be completely side streets.
Right.
In which case they had indicated to me that they probably wouldn't even really shut anything down. They would just have people stationed in places to kind of hold traffic until
I mean,
runners
it's
are through.
ultimately it's up to Jeff, because he'll understand it, right? I was just
Yep.
curious as to going up and back on the same road and then turning
Yeah.
around on that road in that little area.
Right.
If you have a bunch of 50 people trying to do that
Trying to do it at once,
it's
right?
gonna be a little
Yeah,
bit.
now that assuming that we have this approval. I have a message drafted and ready to go to the chief that I will send out to have another meeting and say, this is what we're thinking. Let me know what works best for you guys and just literally tell me where it is, and that's where we'll be.
Okay.
3.1 miles, you can make a lot of them, and some of the routes we looked at, you basically were like serpentining through people's like roads, which works to get the mileage, and it's nice for a Friday night if people are home, they're out cheering and handing out water and doing whatever they want. We were not planning on having, now that I said that, we were not planning on having any formalized water stops. They're kind of messy and unnecessary for a 3-mile race. That's not to say that people wouldn't just hand water out from their front yards, but we weren't formalizing anything along the race route that would actually require people stopping and throwing cups on the side of the road or anything like that.
Anyone else? You all set, everyone?
No, no, so-
So, were we looking for a motion? We're not approving a liquor license, we're just approving the.
Permission.
The permission to have the road race, subject to Chief Gillen's choice of route? That's what we need to vote on? Is that the only vote?
I think
we
it says the Groveland Committee seeking permission to hold a 5K, so I think that's up, we're doing.
I think the race and the beer truck, as long as you approve that they can proceed with that,
Yep.
pending a one-day liquor license, I think those are the important things
So the-
for them, for their planning.
Okay, so the beer truck will get the license itself.
Yep.
Any permits will be handled.
Yep.
Insurance is gonna be through the beer truck.
For that, and then
125,
the insurance for the race will be through the town.
Right,
Yep.
125 people cap. Rubbish and cleanup, you guys will handle.
Yep.
So, I mean,
So for the motion, can we just move the approval of the 5K road race, subject to the coordination with Chief Gillen and the food truck and beer truck, of course, subject to licenses and any necessary police details?
Sure.
Does
Is that a
that
motion?
cover it? Yes, I
okay,
was hoping so.
can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I will need to, my wife is a member of that committee, so I will recuse myself, only to
Put your hand
spare each one of us from the garbage that could follow.
Thank you
May
very
I
much.
just ask the board, do you plan to waive the one-day liquor license fee for the Groveland Day Committee?
We're like charging ourselves.
I just need to ask. It is a $50 one-day liquor license fee. Is that something the board is willing to waive?
Fine with it. I mean, they're doing something for Groveland.
It's
I
Groveland
just
Day,
wanna
we're
make
just
sure.
I'm for it.
paying ourselves.
I'm good with it.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you all very much. And we look forward to seeing you at Groveland Day.
All right, thank you.
Possibly the
Thank you
race.
for your hard work. Thank the committee. Okay, so moving on, we have the Cricket Club discussion. You guys want to come up to the podium?
So I did not know how many of you were on the panel. I've got a couple of printouts with some of the details in there for the discussion.
Okay.
All right,
Do we have these?
Cool. These ours to keep?
yeah, we have them.
Yes.
We have
I think some of it is. I think there are some additional. Bill,
Right.
Bill,
I'll let you-
No,
Bill.
that's all right.
You didn't give them? I'll share.
I got some of that, though.
What is it?
Introduce
Oh, yeah.
themselves.
Ah, we got colored glasses.
I'm
So-
assuming.
If I can get you guys to give me your names,
Hardy Patel.
okay?
I'm Hardy Patel.
I am Vijayesh.
And you guys are from
I'm from
Cricket Club?
Groveland.
Groveland Cricket Club?
He's from Groveland.
Okay. All right,
Just to give a brief of my introduction, I'm Vijayesh. I'm a resident of Lexington. I'm one of the executives of Mass State Cricket League. We are responsible for looking after and promoting the game of cricket in the state. I also help with a couple of youth academies to run the program, and also I work with the schools to create the clubs and promote the game at this point of time. I am also a founder of a club called Hoysala, which is primarily a social and a sports club, which the goal is to promote the game of cricket and also bring in people together to channelize towards that. And that's an NPO I run, and which is part of one of the, we have a team that participates in the league. And the league as such is 5 divisions, 52 teams. And in a team, we have 11 people, part of the team will be playing the game. So give or take anywhere between 600 to 700 players play the game across Mass, Rhode Island. We don't have New Hampshire yet, so Mass and Rhode Island at this point of time on any given weekend. What we are requesting is the main, the complexity of the game, if for the lack of better word, is we need a 22-yard patch called as pitch. Unlike baseball, we drop the ball on the ground. We pitch the ball on the ground, and the bounce is what helps us play the game. That's how the format is. So that 22 yards is most important thing in the way we play the game. So whenever we ask for a ground, you can look it up in the document there. There isn't a minimum or maximum kind of ground dimensions that they give us as part of the rule that is governed by the ICC. But what we go by is we need a 400 feet diameter, and then right at the center of it, we build that 22-yard pitch. And that's how the game dimensions and the ground dimension goes. We have different kinds of pitch we do. What we do is, one, we harden the surface, and we use a jute mat for the 22 yards, which we out after the game, so that it gives decent bounce throughout the game. That's one way of doing it. The second part we do is we do build a 22-yard cement base, like we do the pavements. We do a cement base, and on top of that we lay the AstroTurf, so that again we have a decent bounce, and the AstroTurf gives us the padding for that. And the third and sort of most complicated, but the most the best way to play the game is the natural turf. And again, similar to cement and other ways, you build a hard base. You sort of dig 2 feet in, put the gravel in, and make the harder surface. But you put the clay on top of that, a special clay on top of that, and then you build the grass on top of that, and you have a natural turf that we do. That's the most preferred way of playing, but the complication with that is there is a lot of maintenance that goes with it. You need a roller to make sure it doesn't have cracks. You need to have the right moisture content every time. You need to have the irrigation system for that. So that is one of the things that probably is not most favorable in US. In US, if you look at it, 70 to 80% of the grounds we have are all cement and AstroTurf based. So that's sort of brief introduction into how the game is played at this point of time. Apart from that, it's a very much growing sport. US, couple of months back, got the status of an international team. They have started to invest a lot in youth cricket, which they foresee as the next way to go to progress the game in the country. And there is a lot. I'm working with a couple of coaches and directors at the national level with the national committee with USA Cricket to see how the game can be improved in our region, basically New England region, whether it is Connecticut, Boston, in and around, and New Hampshire has been our focus right now. So,
Okay. I guess I'll ask a couple quick questions.
absolutely.
Who will pay the construction of the area?
So the good part is what is happening is we are sort of balancing it out in the sense the players who play or the club that works with the town
Yep.
takes care of the construction of the pitch, and even beyond that they will take care of the porta potty for the whole season, which starts from April through October. And also sometimes if the town doesn't provide grass cutting, they will take care of the grass cutting too. So, but the club maintains, based on its members,
Yep.
whatever the fee it charges, it
Yep.
uses that to build the pitch, maintain the ground, and use it for the game, to promote the game.
How many people will attend, roughly, how many people attend a game?
So,
roughly?
two teams, 11 apiece, so 22 people play the game on a given day.
Yep.
Give or take, probably another, like if it's a very good community-based club, the thing is, the game starts at around 11 and then ends at 6 o'clock. So families say, we are letting you play, that's a big thing, don't ask us to come there.
Yeah.
So probably another 20, 30 people max would be attending the games at any
Okay.
given day.
Okay. And how much parking do you need, like, for that area?
Players do pool most of the time, but I would say worst case scenario, we would take like at least 22 to 25 as parking spots that would be required for
Okay.
that.
And my last question is, oh, you already mentioned that to maintain the facility, you guys have people that would maintain it.
Yeah.
As a club member.
Yeah.
There are people there.
Yep.
To be part of the clubs and, we, as a team, club, we make certain people responsible.
Yep.
And given duties, divided.
Right.
So, people are there.
What do you guys need from the town other than an area?
Just,
At this point of time, we would say that's the main thing. If we get a ground of that particular dimension,
Yeah.
we should be able to work with the town to promote the game and take it forward.
Okay.
That's the minimum we would ask.
and maybe a little bit of small shed or something is built
Okay.
already, so we can put our equipment in there.
Insurance.
We take up so normally I've worked with the town of Acton, and what we have done is every season before we start liability insurance in the name of the town and in the name of the club, and that's what we have done right now across different towns too.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions they want to ask? Ed, go ahead.
In your paperwork here, I notice your second or third week of April through second week of October,
Yep.
and weekday practices 5:30 to 7:30. Are you going to require lights, because some of you're running into the daylight saving, you're running into, in October, 7:30, it's dark.
Yeah. So the September second week is where the season starts tailoring down. After that, it's mainly tournaments and basically youth cricket trainings that will continue after like second, third week of September. So in October, it will be just that and not probably weekday sessions that's going to happen. Over the weekend, in the morning, it will start around 10, 11-ish and finish off around 5 after second week of September. But like if we have a facility that has lights and we'll have to pay the town to utilize that, that would be a great incentive to get more kids in, so that neighboring towns and kids, if they can come and play under the lights, that would be something that we can look into and work with the town and say whatever the cost is going to be for that, we can bear that.
Some of these cricket games go on for hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are different formats. The
Yep.
formats that we play, that's MSCL is the Massachusetts Cricket League. The format that we play is 40 overs, which is 240 pitches. International does 300 pitches, and there is different kind of formats there. The one we do is 240 pitches, so that's depending on how long you last, because there is 10 wickets that goes in. All your baseball are 3 and then 3 and then 3. In cricket, all 11 goes, and you score as much as you can. So sometimes it's not good enough, you not do practice enough or whatever, you can get out pretty quick, and the game can be done in 4 hours. So it's like depending who you play, who you're against. So roughly around 6 to 7 hours, around that.
6 or 7 hours?
Yeah.
And how come cricket's not an Olympic sport?
Because mainly because of the issue we are discussing right now. Not all countries have got the infrastructure, and especially like I'm saying, that 22 yard which is played at the international level is a specialized pitch which is maintained by groundsmen throughout the year. Needs a certain clay and all that. So like I have it in the picture, I went to North Carolina, took my kids to under 12, under 14 and under 18 tournament. You can see there, they've built 2 pitches. They've got guys from New Zealand to do that, and they build that and they maintain it with working with the town of Morrisville over there.
In this picture that you got here, there's more than 20 people in these stands.
Oh, that is an international
Oh, okay.
game that I've put in there.
All right.
No, we're just doing domestic, basically, and, just bunch of guys gonna get together, we'll play, weekends, Saturday, Sunday, those are the, days.
And then to take it forward, it works out. We want to work with the town to promote the game in the schools, get the kids involved.
If
That's
anybody
the goal.
interested, we'll do a free seminars or coaching, and, if they wanna come out and see it and actually wanna play and learn the
Well
game.
said.
Heather, you,
Hi. This is intriguing. How did you find us, though? I guess, did I miss?
Actually, I did,
Oh, you found
yeah,
us.
I own the Jerry's variety.
Ah,
So just talking to a bunch of
familiar
guys, they
face.
run the
Okay, I
baseball
see.
league and stuff.
I was saying, so we
Yeah.
have a
So
cricket
I-
player in town, that's our,
And he's a
that's
good
our,
friend of mine, and
that's
he
our
was looking
hook.
for a home ground,
okay,
so I was like, oh, let me talk to my town and see what they are,
okay.
you know.
But do
And-
you play?
I
Yeah,
do,
he
yes.
does
Oh,
play.
okay. Is
And
he-
like
is
I
he-
said-
Is he a good player, or?
Oh, he is. He's
Right.
good player. So and like I said,
Okay, just-
like I said, my
he
main
wants
role
some
is that.
pride.
Like I said, my main role is that I'm one of the executives of the State Cricket League. I did the same thing with Acton. We have got 2 pitches we built there in the School Street ground. We have like a Rentham, they've got a good facility with 3 pitches at one place. And I coach kids a lot, and I take kids to the national tournaments, which they had in North Carolina this year. Next year they're gonna have in Maryland. So that's the goal, to get infrastructure, so that the big hindrance right now is that if we don't build, like for example, I've got 2 clubs in high school in Lexington and Burlington.
Right.
Acton ground is already filled, and we don't have spots. Those 2 teams are not able to play the game. The club is there, they don't have cannot play the game because we don't have the infrastructure around.
So we have an empty piece of land that has no use. Would you require us to commit a certain amount of time to you for this piece of land? Are
So-
you,
so
what kind of
that's-
a time commitment?
So that is probably, again, it will be based on mutual, how we work together, because putting that, if we end up going 0 maintenance, cement pitch and AstroTurf,
Correct.
it is gonna cost anywhere around $15,000 to $20,000 for the 22 yards, is the guesstimate right now, based on the labor and all. So because of that investment, we would request when we go to the town, let's start with at least 3 years, 6 years, work with each other. If you guys like what we are doing, then obviously mutually it will continue. If not, then obviously the town will not agree upon that.
And have you personally seen the Center Street properties? You've looked
No,
at it?
No, we
actually,
haven't.
that's-
Oh, okay.
we
'Cause
haven't
they're-
seen any, I heard about a couple of ones available
Mhm.
through Mike. But,
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Because we don't really have any official parking there at this time, but,
yeah, but they had it laid out at one point in
They
time for
did,
parking
okay.
for the football.
Football, yeah, football.
Oh,
football.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
It's a good
So-
size, a
okay.
really good size lot.
because it is intriguing, this
Yeah.
idea.
The
Yes.
parking,
Thank you.
that's there would hold probably 50, 60 cars.
Yeah.
That's
But
fine.
it's weeded over, it will have to be cleaned or whatever, but
Yeah.
we can discuss that as we go, I guess.
And the
Yeah.
good part I always tell is, less grass is better for us. Like,
Right.
we don't need any maintenance and any of that sort. Probably, if town helps out, that's fine, or else we'll have one of the landscaping guys do that every week for us, so that the ball travels on the land when we hit the ball. So
Right.
we want it as less as possible.
Okay.
You good?
Yes, I am,
Okay,
thank you.
so I'll go to Bill next and then Mike.
Mike has a question, go
So we'll go to Mike?
You
ahead.
defer?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
finish, yeah, go ahead.
How long would it take you to build that structure in the center?
Last time I did it with Acton, it took me literally 4 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because what they're saying is, with the present technology, the cement doesn't have to be, what do they say, that watered
Cure,
and
yeah.
cured, yeah. So it settles down very quickly. they digged around one day, and the next day the cement guy came in, poured the cement, and third day we did let it settle down. Fourth day we did put the astroturf in.
Okay.
So give or take, based on the labor, based on when we get the cement guys, probably a week is what we expect that to be.
Okay. I like the idea, other than maybe some issues with what we can use in that land area for, whatever. Other than that, I like the idea. I've watched several cricket games in my overseas travels. I think it's interesting. It's a
Cool.
different game. It's something new.
Cool.
But, yeah, I mean, other than, some things I might not be thinking of as far as land use, I like trying to move forward with this.
So, I guess the pitches are equivalent like to a baseball field or a football field, right? It's called the pitch.
Pitches in the
That's
middle.
the ground.
Oh, that's
Pitch is
in the
middle.
Yeah, this is the
Okay, so
pitch.
the whole thing,
This is
whole
the
thing
pitch.
is the ground.
So usually the pitch is 22 yards
Yep.
from the pitch where because we bat on it.
Yeah,
Every
yeah, yeah.
6 balls, we switch.
It's 360 degrees.
What?
Yeah.
see that,
They
yeah.
can't hear. The TV people
Oh,
cannot hear you.
Oh,
in
sorry.
the- Sorry, we can hear
Yeah,
you fine.
so we bat around 360 degrees. We
Bless
can
you.
hit anywhere 360 degrees, and that whole thing is ground, which is 400 feet diameter at least, and
yeah.
then this is 22
22.
yard right in the middle of the ground.
Okay, so you have players situated all around
exactly.
in the field.
Exactly.
And now, is, obviously,
Boundaries.
yeah, you must have boundaries because you
Yeah,
can't have spectators on the
Right,
field, right?
No,
right,
no.
right.
So how much more do you need
Uh,
beyond the 300, 400
Not
foot
much.
diameter?
Not
Not
as
much.
much, because we put the cones for the boundaries, so maybe another few foot of distance.
Yeah, I
If
think-
someone's wanna dive, you know what I mean?
And I think they have boundaries where it's like a slanted structure that the ball can hit up against, right? And then that's the edge of the field type
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Okay, so you only need
Yeah,
Maybe
we don't
another
need extra space.
420 feet, and that
would
gives
be-
you everything.
Oh yeah, that gives us everything for sure.
And, wow, your games last a long time. They thought your Red Sox Yankees games lasted a
Luck-
long time.
Luckily, the best version, or I consider the best version because of the purest of the game. 5 days is the actual version of the game that they started with. Now, to promote the game, they are shortening it down.
I guess in 6 or 7 hours you play,
Yeah.
you're going to require a lot of food and drink to keep your
Yeah.
stamina going.
Yep.
Trash.
So with food and drinks, we do the duties between whoever's be playing 11. So sometimes we order, sometimes we do homemade foods. And if we have a home game, guests, they also eat. And trash, we have the trash bags, pretty strict about it. And then end of the day, we need a dumpster. If there is next to it, somewhere close by.
I don't believe there's a dumpster
Okay.
No,
there.
there isn't.
The football had one, but football's vacated that for
Okay.
a while, so there's nothing
So-
down there now.
If we couldn't, then I can use mine, well, it'll be pretty neat.
Okay. Now, the small shed you had mentioned to keep your equipment,
Equipment,
who's paying for that?
we can,
We can
We can-
take care of that.
Okay, so
So-
you'd supply that.
So the thing,
or I was saying if there is field already available and has a small structure there.
there's no structure there.
No.
And the thing is, in that particular place we're all thinking about, I think,
Yeah,
it's not lit up at night, and kids can get in and break the shed. It's not like, it's in an area where it's
It's
not
a
developed.
remote. It's remote.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you'd wanna, unless it's a metal
Even
shed,
build this, yeah.
yeah, if you had some place you can bring the stuff to
Yeah.
or whatever,
No,
but,
most,
I mean, you
so-
can try it, but
Yeah,
I know there's people go out there at night and they walk or whatever, it's not like violent, but,
yeah.
you know,
No,
you put a
no.
shed there, someone's curious, and kids wanna break in and see what's in there, yeah, that's my whole thing.
Yeah, truthfully, PYF, Pentucky Youth Football was down
Containers.
there for a couple years, and they really never had
Yeah.
any
You
issues.
know those containers, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe
They
those
did
kids.
have,
So
a
they had a
container.
couple of containers, they're
What
always
we did-
locked, but.
What we did is, like it was $250 or $300 shed, the metal shed, like
Yeah.
we're talking about when we put the wood as the base and
Yeah,
we just
yeah.
built it and
Yeah.
kept it
Right.
over there. So we can do that,
Do the
something
same.
like that.
Okay, well, I think we can maybe discuss that nitty-gritty at the end.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah.
Now, as far as the children, you'd be willing to run like clinics or things like that to get the kids basically, involved in trying to learn the game and
Yeah.
things like that? Would you charge a fee?
So what I have done previously is I've worked with the town of Acton Recreation Department. We created a program and we asked people from Acton and around towns to register through their site. And we had it on Monday and Friday. And a couple of us would commit to that program for that 3-4 months and say we would coach these kids, whoever are registered to it. We had 6 to 10 on Monday age groups and 10 to 16 on Friday. We used to do that for 2 hours.
Okay. Now, we're a regional school district, so obviously, we're not just Groveland, West Newbury and Merrimack are
Yep.
included in the school district. Would you include the children and adults even, I guess, that want to
Yes.
learn the game from those towns as well?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the main goal with this. The main thing for me to reach out to different places and build the infrastructure and start that is want to get into schools. That's the future of the game, or else there is no way we can grow the game. Like, I'm 38-year-old, I don't know how many more years is left in me to play the game. And not at that particular level, right? And USA Cricket has picked up tremendously in last 2 years. And people are doing great job at the top right now to promote the game. We want to do that. We want to get into the schools. We want to get the kids involved in the game. And it's a team game. So it is going to be beneficial at both the ends is what the thought is behind that.
Sure. All the players, amateurs, no professional players?
We do have. I have got a guy who has played for India and who plays in my club because he's like 39 years old now. It's in his past life, he's working here and he's playing the game. But I would call it as a semi-professional league as such. But like I said, if you can see the photos, we train kids and take them to national level tournaments and do that too. So the league we play in is semi-professional, which includes people who are like, we have 5 divisions. Division 1, it's like
Heavy,
it's at that level.
compatible.
And you go down the division, obviously there is some pickable talents who are capable of doing that, but the talent reduces a bit.
So are these retired professionals, or are they currently being paid to play?
No,
it's-
these are all, like I said, not truly professionals who are here to play cricket. They are all probably software engineers or architects who play it as a recreation at the end of the week.
Okay, all amateurs, all right. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. If you can get the iPhone and the iPads out of my kids' hand for 6 or 7 hours.
Oh, yeah.
God bless you.
Okay, Mike wanted to follow up on something.
Yeah, do you plan to sell food to spectators down there, or is
No.
just BYO?
No.
Bring your own stuff?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Okay.
So what we could do is, worst case scenario, one of the days if we have a fundraiser for the club, we would just put it out there, but there are not going to be stalls every game or nothing of that particular sort.
Yeah, because selling food and
Yeah.
obviously liquor
No,
requires different
yeah.
permitting.
No, we would
none
not
of
do
that.
that.
It's just, we bring our own food
Yep.
from home.
Yep.
Sometimes,
Or get it catered to,
Or-
give it to, the home team gives it to whoever is visiting and all that. That's about it.
if their family visits.
Right.
So, one of my questions is you were saying that the cement pad version is the better?
Yeah.
And you said that this would be like a 3-year, possibly a 3-year thing we could do, but this particular property, is more of a conservation piece of property.
Yep,
It might be a little bit of a glitch trying to get a concrete pad in there,
yep.
only because of the way the land's been set up and what have you. If we could do it without the concrete pad, do you think you could live with that? I mean, the other style feel, you really need the concrete.
I
So,
would say the concrete, because the other style requires a lot of,
a lot of
maintaining,
maintenance.
Okay.
basically.
And also,
Uh-huh.
putting it up, taking it out is a lot of work for everyday game. for
And
them.
a lot of people in US, they play cricket, they're all used to on the cement pitch.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it-
How thick is
it
that
all
cement?
conservation, or is it
Probably
recreation
2
too?
feet.
2
No,
feet
the-
thick.
The
Yeah,
part closer to the
feet
gates
and a half
is
or 2
not.
feet, that's about it. The concrete is not thick, they will dig up that much, they'll put the gravel and
Right.
other stuff.
But
and-
the actual concrete is,
Yeah, it could be like half an inch probably.
oh, did you hear that, Bill?
Yes,
The actual concrete piece is only like an inch or two.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know
that's
what
okay.
you're saying.
It's
So-
not like, you know, a
So,
foot.
if you
Yeah.
can, this is what I'm thinking, because I know the area.
Yeah.
I'm sure these guys do too. If you were to pull in this property and you kind of go to the left, what they did is, it's a T-base material, stone dust and stone mixture, they spread it over the parking lot for the
Oh.
football people.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be one place over to the left, you could do it in there, because it's already kind of T-based and there's plenty of room for parking and what have you. I'm just thinking if we poured the concrete and in 3 years you guys left, then the town has the expense of
No.
removing.
That part I'm gonna tell you, once we, because like I'm saying, getting an infrastructure is a very, very difficult thing. Once we have a pitch,
Mhm.
definitely, we are not gonna live that.
Right.
Our goal is to work with the town and
Right.
grow that place rather than,
Okay.
so it's
So
a
what-
hard work to
Yeah.
get that going.
We're
Right.
looking long time.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm just looking out on behalf of
Yeah,
the town, and
makes
that's
sense,
all, you know what I
makes
mean?
sense.
I think the facility that we're all thinking about, it would be perfect, it's recreation
Is-
conservation land.
Do you know where it is? Is it by the Center
It's
Street?
on Center Street.
On a
Yeah.
Sunday,
So
you-
you take a right at the Center Street, and then where the
Before you
yard
get,
work is.
you know where St. Patrick's Church is?
Yeah,
Right before you get to that, if you're going toward Washington Street,
okay,
you'll see it on your right.
right-hand side, okay.
when
There's
you
a
pull,
gate.
when you
There's a
pull
metal
in,
gate
when
right
you
now.
pull down Center Street, you see the commercial buildings? There's some
Okay.
commercial buildings.
Yeah, yeah.
After the commercial buildings, a short distance down on the right side, you can see two metal gates.
I'll
It's
go
in-
through
it's
the
in
gate.
there.
Okay.
It's a big piece of
Big
open
deal.
land. How many acres is that altogether?
60.
60 acres, so it's a big piece of land.
Wow, that would be great.
So I don't know, do we need a vote on this probably to, oh, we gotta wait. Okay,
It's a
right.
possible
Ed
vote.
raised his hand first, I guess.
Do we need, before we do that, do we need any special permits to let them use their property?
Well, we need a lease of some,
The
they're
land.
asking for a
Right.
commitment.
I thought they just wanted
No,
use.
no, do they need to go before, like zoning or planning, conservation, before we give them permission to use that property?
Did the football team?
Zoning or planning, and depending, I would just caution the board, though, because if they're looking for a long-term commitment, you all had a long-term goal for that property as well, to eventually put commercial or build that up. So you really need to look at the site and identify where you would like them to go if they want a long-term commitment, because you guys talked about developing that property at some point in the future. So I would say you need to really look at it and identify a 400 yard or foot,
400 feet.
400 foot diameter area,
Yeah.
that you would be okay with them on a long-term basis.
Well,
and
we,
then-
we said right now tentatively 3 years.
Yes.
For now, I mean, that's,
Yeah, at
the
least-
minimum you needed was a three-year thing.
Just because of the investment that's gonna go into build that particular pitch.
Right.
At least
Right.
like 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
And we're locked up on that land for at least 10, was it? Well, no, I thought it was 10.
Right, I mean, there's different requirements, you could still do it, so you could still invest in that property, it's just there's requirements under the IRS laws. So I just wanna caution you, just make sure you know the area that you're gonna set aside is then off the table if they want a long-term plan for location.
I don't know if I'd go more than 3 years. I mean, let them get their investment, that's just me.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Should we involve the town planner with them to perhaps do a site visit and then report back to us about this piece of
Well, I
land?
think if you're gonna get the town planner, we're gonna have to get the conservation, because it's under their jurisdiction, that was part of it was anyway, and then you gotta do.
No, the recreation area is not conservation. It's a front, the whole front parcel, it's the outskirts that are really the conservation area. The rest is under the control of this board.
Once we get there, we can do.
So even if you go into that gate and go to the left, that's plenty.
We'll go to the right.
Or to the right, it doesn't, I mean, there's plenty of left for us to decide what we wanna do as far as development.
Not on a park.
Right.
You could
That's-
fit 2 or 3
My
football
point that I'm
fields
trying to
on
make
either
is-
side.
Yeah.
My point is, if it's 3 years, and we're not gonna be doing anything with that land
A while.
for a while, because we needed to wait till this, we went through this on the last board, that we had to wait for the restriction to lift or something, what was it?
Yeah, it's because it was purchased with tax exempt
Right.
bonds, so you cannot make money in the property.
Right.
If you do, you have to defease the debt payments, and there's
Yeah.
requirements under the law. It's not prohibited,
Right,
but it's advised to wait until the tax
Yeah.
exempt status
right,
drops.
okay. Go ahead.
If the board were to grant you permission to go ahead,
Mhm.
when are you looking to start all this?
We can do it
As soon
anytime, as soon as possible.
So
starting
you'd look to
next
start
week.
tomorrow if you
Tomorrow,
could.
yeah.
Yeah, if you ask us, we'll, if you give us permission, we'll start working on that.
And would you just be looking to use it as a practice facility, or would you start
No,
holding games
actual-
there right away?
Right, I think schedules already been done for locations and all that, so maybe,
Maybe past August, we might have
The-
games that is gonna come up,
So-
we will start playing that.
so it's MSCL, that's like focus thing, and then after that, we usually do like different tournaments that they set it up, a week, 2 week, Saturday, Sunday thing. So we could do, maybe you could do something like that.
So my thing would be to see if we can meet with a couple of these guys over there,
Mm-hmm.
show them the site, maybe
Sure.
two of us can meet or whatever,
Sure.
show you the site, let you take a look at it, make sure
Yeah.
it's good, and then, I don't wanna I hate to put it off, but I mean, I don't know the fastest way to do this, but maybe next meeting or whatever, I don't care. I mean, I know, and I don't wanna sound bossy, but I know exactly what it sounds like you're doing, it makes sense, and I think Mike's got a good, I think Bill and, I think everyone's a good idea what needs to be done, but it's making sure you are good with that area, and you've seen it, and
Yeah.
you think
Makes
it's gonna
sense.
work, and we now know, okay, this is best fit for us to the left, or best fit for us to
That's
the
the
right. Now
right.
we can lock in and say, okay,
Yeah.
this is where they're going to go.
Yeah.
I think we're all
Yeah,
on
we
board
can-
with it, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Bill that if you met with a couple of us, looked at the property,
Definitely.
told us whereabouts you were
Yeah.
looking to do it, what works for you,
Yep.
and then we can take another look at it.
Okay.
Sure.
I think
Yeah,
we're
that
all
would-
on board with it. I don't think it's
Because
such,
even, that would be great, because then we just don't wanna walk in like, all right, we're gonna play here.
right, and then
I
what happens,
just-
you go over there and start building something, and we
So-
haven't
yeah.
discussed where it's gonna go and
That
all that,
makes
and then we're
sense.
gonna,
and
get off on the
something,
wrong
yeah.
foot.
That makes sense.
you know what I mean?
And that's how I've done with the other towns too, where,
Right.
like we're discussing right now, what happens is, since we face the picture, we build it in north-south direction, so that the sun, in the
Right,
evening,
right,
sun
right.
doesn't.
Can't get in.
So
Right.
what I do is, I go with the town guys and
Yep.
say, this is where we're gonna build that 22-yard pitch,
Right.
and we get the
Wow.
agreement, and then from there, we get the 200 feet radius marked in saying
Right.
that this is what the ground's
Okay.
gonna be.
Yeah, because we have, not that you guys wanna hear it, but we have the rowing club, that we have our river.
Yeah.
And we're working with the rowing club right now to try and let them use our river. So, I mean, this
Oh,
is
okay.
all good for Groveland, it brings
Yeah.
people to Groveland, it brings
Yep.
people spending money and what have you. So it's all, I think it's all good, but
So when,
I know Mike was heading this, maybe Mike can, talk with you guys and maybe meet with one of us and discuss it. We'll go down and we'll discuss and do a walk around with you, and
Sure,
we'll go from there.
sure.
I can say my shop is right there, it's like my business is there, and I'm a landscaper, so if there's anything I can do to help you
Oh, there you
guys
go.
get going or whatever, I'll
That's
donate
great.
a field mower or something to mow it down or whatever,
That's great.
whatever we can do to
Yeah.
help you.
yeah, even, I don't know what it looks like, how
Yeah,
thick
well,
it
we'll
is
have to
and
do a
all
walk
that,
around.
so It'll be great.
It's
Never
pretty
been.
raw land back there.
You should
Yeah.
really look
Can
at
I
it.
just ask a question?
So, go ahead.
So I'm just I'm on your website. So would you create a new club that was based out of Groveland, or you would
I'm
just
already
move?
there. If you look into the clubs, it's called Hoysala.
Oh, yep.
That's my club.
So that's the club that would would this be like the home
Exactly.
team here?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, he's got it right now in Rhode Island. A lot of guys is 2 hours ride, this and that. So if
Oh,
you
I
get
know
it
why my
here,
guys all
we'll move
leave.
everything to Groveland.
Oh, thank you.
Now you know where they're going.
Very good, thank you.
All my guys
Thanks.
go to Rhode Island to play this, and I'm like, if I'm late.
And I was down in Rentham, I was down in
I'm at the end of
Rentham
the
a
table, I
couple
don't
of
get
weeks ago
any.
for a baseball game, and they were playing cricket down in Rentham.
Oh, I play Rentham actually. That's where I use.
No, I don't need it.
I
play Rentham.
I've got the details.
Rentham, they started actually in '97. I've been playing there for 7 years.
That's a haul for
Yeah.
you.
So, how do you wanna move forward with this?
I'm available this week to go down there with you
I'm
too, so.
available whenever, if you wanna meet or whoever, I don't, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
I'm available whenever.
I think
We
it's-
need, we need to meet again to go
It's gonna
over
pour
this.
tomorrow, so tomorrow's out.
So-
Step one would obviously be show them the property and see if it's suitable for their purposes. If not, I mean, then the discussion kinda ends.
Right,
because-
For us, it's, like I said, we realize that building that infrastructure is the main key for us. We don't have really high standards with respect to what the ground. It's flat, it's playable, we can mow it and get it ready for our game is all we look at. So as long as it's in that condition, it's flat, it's playable, we can get that going, we are good with that.
Like, we go to different towns,
It's flat.
It's fine.
and it's hard to play on it, we still play on that.
The kids play football on it,
Yeah,
so.
so it should be.
Feel like we can, it sounds like fun, but I think, do we need a motion? I can move a motion for a site visit.
Sure.
And Bill and Mike want to, Bill Dunn.
Sure.
And Mike want to do the
Yeah,
site
that works.
visit with you, coordinate that, and then report back?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need
So
a
moved.
motion for a site visit?
Well,
We need
it's
a
under
motion for
things that
everything.
we need possible votes, so I feel like it would be a good idea to make a motion that they do the site visit and report back. So
And then
moved,
add it to the next agenda to follow up.
and add it up to the next agenda to follow up.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, so we get a second, and any further discussion? Did you already make the motion, Kathy?
Yes, I
Okay.
did, thank you.
And get a second from Ed. No further discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right, well, thank you. and,
Thank you, guys.
So we'll
Thank
be
you
in
so
touch,
much.
When it stops
Wednesday,
raining.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, when it stops raining, so sometime this week.
Sure.
So I'll swing over, see if we can get a date. Bill and I would try to figure out a schedule, and then we'll look at the weather, and then try to do it for maybe Thursday, so
That's fine,
we can go from there.
we'll be.
Okay,
Okay.
And
Sounds
then
good.
if
Thank
that,
you, guys.
and then if that location works out, plan to be here 2 weeks from tonight for their follow-up discussion and vote.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks,
How
board.
about when you do that, how
Thank
about
you
a
so
sketch of the property so we know
Definitely. Nice to
exactly
meet you.
where, like, for
Fun.
those of us that
Good-
aren't
good luck.
gonna be there.
Thank you, thank you.
no problem. We'll come by.
Thank you.
You too. Good luck.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you play.
Thank you.
You want to make sure you play well for us.
Okay, so we're now moving on, and we have the tax bill insert request by the Community Preservation Committee.
Hi, Mike Dempsey for the Community Preservation Committee. So, requesting tonight that the short two-page newsletter be able to be placed in the next tax bill to keep the community informed and updated on activities of the committee. Going to be able to save a considerable amount of postage by doing that, so.
Does anyone want to put some input?
So CPA saves money on postage? How much, will this add anything to the town's postage?
It cannot, we're not legally allowed to put anything in a tax bill that increases the postage, so it has to be within the same first-class stamp rate.
Is there anything else currently being discussed about putting in the tax bill?
No.
So this would be the only other additional piece of literature in that?
Yes.
Anyone else have a comment?
This has been done before, right, Mike? You do this just about once a year, don't you?
Yes.
I'm good.
It's really a simple
Um,
thing.
Go ahead.
I like the idea of keeping everyone informed. And I like that you put in the return, the matching was 44.6%. Because I personally have heard people in town state other percentages, and I just wonder where they get that information from. But should we also, in the transparency, put in the beginning that it's collected as, it's a 3% surcharge, right, on the tax rate?
Yep.
Does that go on top of any overrides or just on the base? I didn't have time to look that up.
It's on the total tax.
So if we have an override that goes on, it's 3% on top of that override too as well, okay.
Yeah, and it's 3% of the actual tax, not 3% of your property tax, not 3% of your property, it's 3%
Percent
of the
your
tax
property
you pay,
tax,
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay. I like the information. I would say that if it could be put in a shorter format if you wanted to, but everything here is truthful, and it's what we've done, so it keeps people informed.
So this is more for informing people. So if someone didn't like the fact or they didn't want it, they'd have to come back and they'd have to say, I don't like it, I don't want
Yeah,
it.
sure, sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I think that, after the last meeting, when Mike Wood brought up some questions about CPA, I think that it's important to at least make sure that everybody's informed about what we've used CPA for. To
Yep.
be, that if you were gonna make a decision about changing something or whatever, that at least people know what we used it for and what it can be used for.
Well, we can't make that decision, the town to make that decision. We would make the decision to put a warrant article in place for
Yeah.
the town to vote on it, but
Yeah.
the town would make that decision, we
Yeah,
wouldn't make that decision.
no, but I mean, I think the committee's bound by the state law to make sure that we keep the residents informed, because it's a tax.
Yes.
There's a tax on people, so it's important to, and it's a tax that we can choose not to have if we don't want it. So it's important to keep everybody informed about why we have it and what what it's used for. Go ahead, Ed.
Mike, is it possible, you got here an update on the 2019 CPA project with an explanation. Is it possible to include that on a spreadsheet with the CPA projects that are ongoing and how much money they've got left to complete the project, and maybe even the time frame?
Yes, yes. Well, I know that you asked Denise to look at everything, and most of my information comes from Denise anyway. So, we could put that in there also. We did find out that there are no time frame limitations on projects. So even though we actually vote to end a project in 3 years, which is the typical time that we've done now over the past 5 or 6 years, that's not required. So, but there are, I would say right now, not counting the 7 that just got approved, there are maybe 5 open projects, not too many really.
Obviously, you're gonna, when you send this out, you're gonna send it out front and back.
Yes.
And so that, like, including a spreadsheet wouldn't add anything to it.
No, I would have to squeeze, if I put it on that piece of paper, I have to squeeze it in there somewhere.
Right, you could not add a third piece of paper, or a second piece
No,
of paper.
right,
'cause that
right.
would increase
So,
the
so
postage.
I can remove something or, whatever.
Kathy, you want to talk?
But I like Ed's idea, though, of trying to achieve a table of some form, because I agree with what you're saying here. There are certainly the vast majority of projects, especially the projects that put facilities into our recreation, we would not have been able to afford those without this particular surcharge that's set aside towards those kind of things. But I think there's a little bit of a concern that there might be some projects that, because it's mainly volunteerism that moves these forward, if something's not moving forward or the interest has died, do we have to unvote that project to undo those funds? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
They don't really expire, it seems like.
they don't, but I would say, it's Denise's discretion on spending. If, 5 or 6 years went by, and then all of a sudden someone comes back and says, gee, we're gonna start spending on this project that never was done, I think that we have to go back and really look at how does that fit with the original, and say, if you want to do that, it's time to go back and get another vote at town meeting. But we haven't run into that, so it's hard to say.
But we've run into situations where maybe a project doesn't fully use up the funds.
Oh,
So
yeah.
What I'm asking is, do you have to release those funds so that they go back? Or, because otherwise they're not considered in the available, in the money that's still left there, because they're not ever going to be used. Some, like, sometimes a volunteer does as much as they can, and then that's
Yeah.
that. That's what I'm asking.
If a project ends,
Mhm.
any money that isn't spent automatically goes back into the general pool where it came from.
If I may comment on that. So yes, so a couple things. So town council has said the funding authorization is what does not expire. So we came up against this with the Pines. So we had money allocated for the Pines with the Recreation Committee and then the board taking some of that project back. We were nervous that we were gonna run out of time. That's clearly an ongoing project that we've been working on, and we'll spend those funds because we've still been doing work on it. But for instance, the town clerk historical document preservation, there was a small $35, I think, left, but we've bought the software, we've bought the equipment, we've done we paid everything. If there was money left, we're not just gonna use it. That money would close at the end of the 3 years if that project was over. It's not just gonna hang out there for people to then continue to spend because they have money in there. It has to be for that project. And then, if not, I close it out and put it back in the available. I do keep a spreadsheet on every project that's ever been allocated. So I would bump that back into the available funding section,
Great.
All set?
if that
Yes.
helps.
No, that does help. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Yep.
Quick question, this doesn't particularly pertain to this newsletter, but the 44.6% return. I know I asked this question a couple of times, and maybe you still don't know the
Yep.
answer. How the city of Boston entering the CPA, joining the CPA is going to affect our match, because I have to think they're gonna suck up a lot of funds.
Yes.
Do you know if that's going to impact this to go from 44 to 33? When does it not become worth our while anymore if the return on investment is just so minimal, because other large cities like Boston, Fall River, Springfield have joined in the club, and they,
Well, I can't answer, I don't know how that's going to affect things. Nobody really knows how it's going to affect things. And that is why the Community Preservation Coalition has been working pretty closely with the legislature to get additional funding for CPA. So one of the things that they did get approved was, and I think it says it in here, they got an increase in the registry fees, which is where the money primarily comes from, towards CPA. So this year, that's going to boost the amount of the general pot that CPA receives. So hopefully, again, that will keep, the money flowing in that direction. The other thing that they've done is request specific funds from the legislature when not all of the budget gets spent and they have extra money left over at the end of the year. In the past, sometimes they've donated that into the pool towards CPA. So I don't think anybody really knows, but Groveland is not alone in this worry. I think that's why the legislature is willing to think about it more, because it's become a very important tool that a lot of towns are using.
well, sure, if the big cities squeeze out the little towns like
Yeah.
they usually do,
Right.
then what's in it for us anymore?
Right. Right.
How much of VZ Park is meant for recreation?
Well, seeing out you can use recreation funds anywhere. There's no restriction on recreation funds. So, at VZ, I don't think we've used any recreation funds. We've only used historic funds there from the historic pool.
The reason I'm asking is, I'm thinking the cricket club,
Yep.
it might help VZ Park out. If you had an area that size, might be able to benefit from each other's company.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you have a lot of land big enough,
Not
deep for
flat.
recreation on BZ Pond.
Probably not flat enough, you know, probably because you know, you've been there.
Yeah, I'm kinda,
It's
I
on
don't
a
know
hill.
the back as well as you
It's-
do, you know?
It's a big hill. But certainly, even at Center Street, the town could use CPA funds to build, for ourselves to build the cricket facility, put up lights there, and rent it out to the club, or however agreement you want to come up with. Could be done.
Let's not go crazy. Okay, thanks.
Mike, so, in this letter, one of my thoughts would be
Yep,
to tell the people in Groveland how the CPA money can be spent. So if we gave them some, I know what you're trying to say what we've spent it on, which is
Yeah.
great. People in Groveland do not have a good grasp on how the money can be spent.
okay.
Okay, so in this letter, I think it'd be educational to tell the people in Groveland, this is how we can spend our money, and this is what we can spend it on, different things they can spend it on.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
I think that's what people need to need. And as you know, there's a lot of chatter that goes on, and the superintendent of the schools is sitting in the back of the room, but, there's a lot of chatter going on, and the school's gonna cost us a lot of money coming down the road. So people are nervous, and I've heard myself, you know, if we took 1% off of this, maybe when the time comes, not saying today, it's going to help to go toward the schools. Not saying that's the answer. And what I'm saying is, yes, why do we want to give up 44% of a match from the state? Nice to let the people know the state's matching 44%. You know what I mean? We're getting our money back in return. We're getting a good return on our money.
Right.
But, and I've said it in the past, and I'm not saying it, beating on you, but I say it the way it is, you know me. In the past, we have bought a lot of open space and a lot of open land. We've been better about it, definitely. I personally like to see the money spent on our infrastructure, parks, playgrounds, like you just said, the cricket club, that kind of stuff. I think if the money was spent that way, the people in Groveland would be way more in favor of the CPA money, and you wouldn't even consider pulling it away. And we've been good about that. I agree. I'm doing a good job at doing what we do. But I do not think the people in Groveland have a good idea how this money should be spent. I think this is how we should educate them. Because you may have someone out there that says, well, I want to use money to a park or whatever. You know what I mean? They may have something, they may come in and say, hey, I got a good idea. Why don't we do this? We can spend it on this. We just talked about the cricket club.
Right.
Different things. I think that part, if we could get that in there, would be definitely educational to the people reading this letter.
Right.
And I understand what you're doing. I understand you're trying to show the people how the money had been spent and what have you, but I think we definitely should tell the people, this is what we can do. with
Yeah,
it.
what could be
What
done.
could be done. It's
Right.
gonna help bring other projects on, and, you know what I mean? How much money roughly is in that account that could be used?
Roughly about $2 million.
So $2 million. So you could maybe do
We'll
two or
never get through $2 million.
No,
and
I
stuff.
mean, there's enough money stuffed away right now, unless we did some real big projects, you know what I mean? So,
Oh, I'm sorry, finish what you're saying.
Um,
when you're ready.
so what I'm saying to you is, we have money stuffed away there. It's good. We've built a good little kitty. So
Right.
when it gets closer to the high school, if we had to for a few years back away from it or whatever, if for a percent or whatever, does it make sense to lose a percent to lose the match? We gotta figure that all out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So our match somewhat depends on the percentage that we get. Because we tax at 3%, we get the best match. So I think as I say in here, over the last few years, we've done very well. In 2018, we were 24th highest in the state out of over almost 200 communities because of our size and
Yeah.
also because of our demographics and because we have 3%. So if you cut back, you get less of a match. So that's something to keep in mind. I think I said that the last time that we had discussed this. But, you know, I agree. I think the biggest place where we have the two biggest places are affordable housing and recreation for the future. So things like, you know, Center Street, we can build things there, outdoor facilities under recreation that utilize CPA funds. we're talking about the boathouse down at the Pines. We have voted to spend, I think, $575,000 on the Pines for recreation. So we've done, under your direction, we've done quite a bit down there, but certainly adding the boating facility is a good thing. And then, possibility of reviving Mill Pond as a swimming facility. Another idea, some things on Johnson's Pond that might be possible, again, for recreation possibilities. So, those are the kind of things I'll put
But-
into this document.
Kathy, 1 second. But Mike,
Yep.
the thing that you just talked about, it's all 100% good for Groveland.
Yep,
It's gonna bring residents to Groveland, it's gonna bring like,
Right.
them people from Concord and Burlington, and they're gonna bring them in, and people, we don't have a lot of business here, we don't, and we're not going to because of our business demographics, we're not going to. We have one area, and it's now gonna be housing. But what I'm saying is, we're never gonna have that tax revenue that we need, like they have in Georgetown and
Right.
some of these other towns. So, that being said, this helps us, 100% it does, you know what I mean? And can we build our town somehow, like you said, maybe we do something over at the Strawberry Fields that would bring money in, or whatever. That's something we should be looking at in the big picture, and I agree, and that's what I've kind of always said. We have the boat house and the boat rowing committee coming to the Pines possibly. That's hopefully gonna bring revenue, it's gonna bring people, they're gonna spend money, they're gonna help hopefully, promote in our town, so it's all
Right.
good things.
right.
But I know these guys wanted to talk. Kathy, I think you were first.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just, when you spoke about, working with the coalition to try to preserve the match as much as possible, I also wonder, is there a path for us to work with the CPA, is it coalition, whatever? Because our town hall is not considered a historic building. Many towns have their town hall in a historic building. So they're allowed to use the CPA funds for their infrastructure, and we're not. I mean, and so that, that to me is a restriction that's not quite fair, really. And, so some type of ability to preserve your town, because even our historic roadways are beautiful, tree-lined. Why can't we work with them a little bit to see, aren't there other towns in the same predicament as us that would benefit from these funds that have been accumulated, being able to use them towards infrastructure? I mean, the schools will always get their money, the sports will get their money. Infrastructure is what usually doesn't get funded in a town, and it's costly, and this could be another great purpose if it seems proper. And I know you came to the finance board, and that's how we came up with the idea to fund part of the town planner's salary
Right.
from CPA funds, and that's a great use of those funds, being able to bring in someone to help the town and have that position partially funded through this money. So how should we approach if we wanted to look into that type of thing? How would we approach that, do you think?
Well, I think that, one route is to talk to our state representative, Lenny Mira, and also Bruce Tarr in the Senate, because they're both influential, they both support CPA. So, that's one place to start, is really talk to them about the possibility, because what it's going to require is a change in the law or a better definition of CPA funds. It has been done. It was done with recreation funds. There's been a couple of tweaks to the law in the past, so certainly going forward, if it were presented in the right way and we could find some other towns that agreed with us, I think it's a possibility.
Okay. I'm also, thank you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Mike, off the top of your head, I think it might have been 3 years ago that Boston came on board. You lose track of time after a while. Was it longer than that?
No, I think it was.
Around there. And any idea, they went with a CPA of 1%. Any idea what we lost on percentage when they came on board?
Well, our match before that was in the 50s, and now we're down to 40-something, so it's probably been 10% or so.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Everyone all set?
Yep.
Kathy, you all set?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, well,
So,
you.
so what I'd like to do is edit this with your suggestions, and I'll send it back to you. And, you know, you can either approve it tonight or approve it after I make my
it's
changes.
up to the board. You guys want to,
You know, I'll make a motion that we approve it. The townspeople should know, and that's the best way to get the information out to the taxpayers, is with the tax bill. Now,
with the event, you're doing the motion with the event, with, the, yeah, sure, amendments. The amendments I talked about, we talked about, like the,
well, whatever he can cram on 2 pages,
well, maybe change something around.
so that it's big enough so people can read it.
Right, well, that's true.
Okay,
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion, and let them include that in the tax bills.
A second.
second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to limit that to just 2 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other further discussion? You good, Mike?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have the town manager and administration discussion. Kathy headed it up. She asked to keep this to 20 minutes, and she'd like to speak first.
For the whole 20 minutes. No,
Let me
just
just
kidding.
shut this one light.
Okay. So if you could focus your attention on this first, and this is difficult to print out, but what it shows is all of the responsibilities that we had included in the administrative assistant position over these years, and then we added the personnel duties to it, okay, under Nancy Lewandowski, and the list is extensive. It goes down. Can you scroll that down a little,
Yep.
just so you can see how far down it goes? You'll see that things got added and added, and then we back up. And then, in, I believe it was 1995, we restructured, and we created a finance director position, right? And at that time, the finance director position was full-time and was clearly defined. And we had kind of a separation of duties between the admin assistant and the financial director. That kind of went on from 1995 going forward. And I was on the board for part of this, and I know there was always discussions, well, who's gonna take care of scheduling the fields? And they would decide. And then in the next column, and so what I used was were the job descriptions. Okay, these duties that are listed here are from the job descriptions, what these people were tasked with doing in writing. And then going forward, we went to the place where we had the full-time administrative assistant retiring, and we moved the personnel responsibilities over to the financial director's job at that point. And that changed. You can see some of the responsibilities from the first column now moving over to the financial director with added responsibilities. And then the yellow column, and I take responsibility if you think I'm wrong on some of this was kind of my freelancing, that I just thought about things that I've seen you bring up in the meetings, and Denise is doing them as a financial director, but some of them weren't necessarily in the original job description. Some of them were more in the administrative assistant position, who was kind of the administrator for the town, if you want to think of it that way. Forget the word assistant. Sort of, we had an administrator that worked under the board, didn't have a lot of authority, but administrated, and then the finance director position was brought in, and then we've sort of kind of collapsed together. And then the interesting part, as I got going on it, was just looking at, and this is a lot of paper to look at, I don't expect you to go through this right now, but looking through the responsibilities that are given to town managers or town administrators, it doesn't really matter which term you use, it's kind of all the same thing. It seems to streamline and clarify kind of the mishmash that we have going on in these first 4 columns. it seems to be the next logical path for our town. Because we've sort of got part of that going on, and then part of it's just kind of hanging there waiting for us to meet every 2 weeks, administratively. And the other interesting part that I found when I was looking through all of the varied job descriptions, and I didn't include all of these in the chart, I just went through and I started sampling to see what they would have in them. The interesting part is that when you get to that size of position, the town manager, the expectation is you get the job done, you're 40 hours plus. The other expectation is that the Board of Selectmen or whoever designs the job descriptions determines how much authority to vest in this job. So, for example, in the West Newbury, the town manager can hire and fire, however, it's subject to, I think it's a 15-day window that the Board of Selectmen can vote to stop that action. Okay, so, you know, in all likelihood, my guess would be that town manager's gonna go to the board first, or, are you okay?
Yeah,
Eric, okay.
swallow some down the road through.
Yeah, I know, I understand.
Number stagger me.
I understand. So, it is interesting, and it can be definitely tailored to our needs, to what works for Groveland. We don't have to take a cookie cutter and force it in on our town. We can find something that helps us move forward, you know, which is what we did back in 1995 when we created this financial department. That was our first step. And then we went to the 5-member board beyond that, and then we changed the highway commissioner to appointed. So we've keep making steps along this path, and I think now it's probably timely that we start to look at what would be the next logical step that would benefit the town. You know, ensure that people have a town that's running well, that's accountable, that they feel like their tax dollars are being wisely spent and they're being overseen and managed on a daily basis. That's kind of what I came up with. I also created a little summary document. This is a really big spreadsheet. I thought of ways to try and print it out, and I couldn't find one, so I apologize.
You can email it out.
She can email it out, and then I can try and find a way. It's just this long and this wide, so I wasn't sure how to print it out. But this is just going through what I just told you, that we filed the legislation in 1995, I believe was when we finally did get the position. We had forums on it, and we talked to the townspeople about it. We talked to the employees in the town hall. And then we went forward with the personnel officer being put to first the selectman's assistant and then being moved to the financial director. And that was to get the Board of Selectmen out of having to handle personnel matters. I don't know if you knew that. The reason it was initially put to the administrative assistant was that sometimes the personnel matters are very sensitive, and here they are on camera. And it made it very difficult for people to come in and talk about something that might not need a huge action, but they just needed someone who knew what their rights were and needed to listen. And that was created for that reason. I mean, my feeling personally, having gone through many of these changes and seen the reaction of the town, is that the townspeople are genuinely very proactive, and they like to see change that's going to benefit the town, that's going to help make things better, so that if we tailor this so that it fits in with our current mix of appointed and elected, so that it's tailored so that it doesn't overstep, but that it is progressive and meaningful, I think it could be very helpful. This is just showing you, based on the salary survey information that's before you, what we have kind of already spent over the years having these two separate positions. And obviously, you know, the intent in all these changes is clear. Everybody's always trying to do something that's gonna help the town run smoothly. That's always the intent, but I think right now we've done as much as we can with the separate positions. It's time to consider streamlining things to a better position. And so that's what I did. I thought this was in line with what you had all agreed that you allowed me to do. Okay, that's it, I'm done.
There's Does anyone wanna comment?
Yeah, that's the question,
Right.
through the chair. Could you explain the, it says here under number 2, the position of town manager administrator will cost less than what the town has paid previously for a full-time administrative assistant, personnel officer, and a full-time finance director. Where do you come up with the 6630 and the 105 equaling 171, and the median salary for a town manager administrator, and I think it was West Newbury with 145. Well, can you explain the 105 and the 66 to come up with 171?
Right, well, doesn't it add up properly? It does, right? Yes, so 66 is what I believe our administrative assistant retired at, and 105 is our financial director before Denise, what we were paying. So those were salaries that existed. I'm not trying to show you that we're going to overall save money, I should clarify that, because it's a very good question. We will still need to have like a treasurer collector position. And median is not average. I want to point out, what I did is I actually counted in and picked the median number. Do you know what I mean? If you look if you put them in order from largest to smallest to largest,
Oh, I saw it, I saw it.
yeah, so I was looking to, I didn't think an average for the town manager was as meaningful as a median, because it's sort of like understanding where all these different towns are, because they're all different sizes. And I'm not saying that this position won't increase a little bit maybe, but looking at what we've been trying to do, my point in showing this comparison is that continuing the way we're going right now, I feel, is perhaps more costly for those two separate positions than looking at a consolidated position in which we decide that we invest the authority that we are comfortable with, and we choose a salary that we feel is reflective of the responsibility that we're giving that position.
Well, right now, we're not paying 66 and 105. We don't have two positions.
Correct, and I said that.
So we're looking at, if you're talking about a median salary of 145, what are we paying now?
Okay, so current salary.
Not the combined, because we only have
I-
one person.
Excuse me, I'll answer the question, but you need to not paraphrase my example here in the wrong light. I am not showing the current salaries, and I was clear on that. I'm showing you the history of these positions and the maximums that they reached and how much it cost. Because I think that's meaningful. Because this is what we were trying to do to get the job done, to get the administration and the finances of this town accomplished. Currently, right now, we have a part-time, undefined administrative position that's not even filled. And I believe the current financial director position is maybe at 111, am I?
At 113.
At 113, thank you, at 113. So, running with that current model, I mean, my observation, having only been on the board a few months, but even from watching your meetings before, is we wait meeting to meeting, and it takes a long time, and there are issues that come up in between that could have been resolved more quickly and more expeditiously, and sensitive matters that perhaps could be handled in between our meetings and with more dignity and more professionalism than having to drag them in here on camera. And I do think that with the best of intentions, the Board of Selectmen over the years has been trying to get this job done and done correctly. And the list of responsibilities reflects that. I feel like if I could have printed out that spreadsheet for you, it would be more understandable, because you would see those responsibilities that kept getting put into the jobs. And just, I'm not the chairman of anything, I'm just the person who volunteered to do this.
I mean, I'm looking here at this survey, and I'm seeing, here's 182,000 in Canton, 174 in Dracut, probably more comparable to Groveland. North Andover, 189,000. I mean, it would, it almost sounds to me like, if you had a town manager or town administrator in place, and who is second on the list? I mean, what, as far as, if the person left for another community, then who becomes in charge? I like the idea of two people at a less of a salary instead of one person in charge, because if that person happens to be out, there's nobody to cover that position. And, you know, we're a small town, probably a little over 6,000 people. And it's worked fine, I think, in past years, and I just don't think that we can afford $145,000 for a town administrator or a town manager. I just don't think, I personally don't see the need for it. We have, we've worked pretty well with the way that we've got it, and I know that these salaries are not gonna be going down, but I like to have two people in place and not just a town administrator. And I know these to take some of the pressure off of the Board of Selectmen. But also, that may have been okay when the Board of Selectmen was 3 members, but now you have 5. And I just think it's an awful lot of money, and I'm not sure that we can afford it, and it seems to be working. The old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Can I just respond? I mean, Ed, and I'm gonna try and phrase this as politely as I can, but I don't like cliches, so I don't like this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because we have been fixing it for a long time now, starting from 1995. We have been fixing it. 1995, this town was under state scrutiny because we had lost money. No one knew what had happened. No one knew if someone took it, it wasn't taken, it was determined, it was just poor financial management. We were under state oversight because of that for a few years. It was not pleasant. People were unhappy. I mean, morale was low. Financial director was brought in. Financial department was formed. And then as that moved forward and the town has grown and progressed, we have more needs and more activities. And the reason for the 5-member board isn't so that 5 different people can run around town directing things in between our meetings. We meet as a board, and that's when we make our decisions. But as a 5-member board, that would ensure that whoever is in a position to say, if we did create an administrator or town manager, they would have the oversight of a 5-member board, which would reflect the diversity of the town, and I think would guarantee that we don't end up with somebody who takes too much power or doesn't listen to the people. But we have been progressing. It has been kind of broken, and we keep fixing it. We keep changing positions and adding responsibilities. And again, I feel like the job descriptions aren't as helpful to you as the spreadsheet that I put together. And I apologize that it just got so large. I wasn't quite sure how to reproduce it in a format that you can look at, so I can work on that. But what I'm looking for at this juncture, I guess if all 4 members are opposed to this, it won't go forward any further. But my reason for asking for this time at this juncture was to see if you saw enough merit to bring this forward to a forum in the fall so the townspeople could have a say on this and ask questions. And at that point, we could show how this could fit into our structure and be a little more specific about what the range of costs might be with this type of change. Because I think that that's not clear at this point. This is just really research that I've done to present to you, to show you where we've been and why we were there and what we've changed. And yes, my opinion is we should move forward again, but I think it's important to know if my board members are in favor of this.
Okay.
Just a rebuttal, if I could. We have, the last year or so, year and a half, again, we hired a town planner to take some of this responsibility away from,
I'm sorry, I gotta stop you because this is not any of the responsibility of the town planner. None of these duties belong
And-
with the town
and go
planner.
back,
So I
can
don't
you,
wanna mislead people.
I don't know which way you went.
That's okay.
Can you go,
To what are you
go
looking
forward a
for?
little bit?
Are you looking for something specific?
Yeah, just before that, the salary ranges, the salary range there. No.
Oh.
Roll the screen. Keep going.
This is the end.
That's the end of it.
Oh, all right, then, I'm sorry, I've been back.
I knew
Well, you
this
said the
would be-
salaries, that's the very beginning.
Okay, so like where it said 66 and 105?
Oh, that's the spread, the other thing.
Yeah, just,
Oh.
all right, just before that. I think there was something there. Hold it right there. I mean, just pointing out here in that paragraph, each change was, the changes are done. And then at the end, I believe that it is in the best interest of our town to change the job of the finance director to that of a town manager or administrator. And, you know, I just gave some, in my belief, is that it's not. This is your
Right.
belief, and just because you believe it doesn't mean that the townspeople are in favor of it, or myself.
Oh, I agree.
So this is your plan.
No, it's not my plan.
Well, it
It's my-
says here, I believe, which is you.
Yeah,
that-
I said I believe, but the
Yeah.
rest of it is not my plan. I have
Okay.
no plan. And I guess, I don't want to argue with you. I just want to point out, again, the only criticism that I think what I would love to hear from you the next time, if we're allowed to bring this up again, would be specifically what you feel would be a con as to moving to this. And I think
I
that
can
if,
give you that right now.
okay, go ahead.
Cost.
Okay, yes.
Cost is gonna be a lot more
Okay.
than what we have right now.
Well, okay, so that's
And, you
your
know,
comment.
and as it was mentioned earlier in the meeting, we got a new school that we're gonna end up having to pay for, along with others. I just think that the taxpayers are taxed out. And I don't wanna
Okay.
see some of these senior citizens having to move out of the town of Groveland because they can't afford an increase in taxes.
Well, this is not an increase in taxes. There is no way that I would support this position coming in if it increased taxes at all. We would have to reallocate resources within the tax rate with what we're doing already. So I hear your con, but I think the con would be that money would come from other areas in order to make this work. But that's all. I don't want to argue.
Let me go
I
to
have
this-
no
Let me
comment.
go to this side of the table. Mike, you have anything on this?
Yeah, I agree with Kathy. I think it is time to move forward with the town manager, town administrator. Regardless of how many people are on this board, whether it's 5 or 10, not one person on this board is authorized to make any decisions at any point for the town itself, and we ran into problems with that in the past. So the number of people on this board is irrelevant, and I think having a board that meets only every 2 weeks limits the capacity of what the town can do in that time frame, where a town manager or administrator would be able to take things more readily to move things forward quickly, rather than wait for the board to meet every 2 weeks, where we would just be limited to items that would be kicked up to our level that need our approval. And as far as cost and whatever the other argument was, and there's constantly going on and on, Denise already does all this stuff that's been listed out. She just doesn't have the authority to make final decisions on it. She already handles 90% of what's been listed out on those spreadsheets, so I don't know what the argument is. I'm done.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with my colleague, Mr. Wood and Ms. Castronellis, that I think the town has evolved. I mean, I hear Selectman Watson's point. It worked great in the past, but so did the horse and buggy and the Edsel and the rotary phone. For a matter of fact, the veto worked well in the past too, but I don't think you'd want to run to the fire with the veto today. Things have changed. I think the 5-member board was made to dilute power from the 3-member board, not to take on responsibilities of finance director or town administrator. To Kathy's point, we meet once every 2 weeks. Some things are just too important to let lag for 2 weeks. The town has grown to the point where we need more immediate oversight over some of these things. I think the town planner and the town administrator slash would give us that. And while you picked out the most expensive, I'm gonna pick out the least. I see Brockton for 87,000. That's a big city, they only pay 87. Dunstable, 79. Hopedale, 88. Otis, 65. So we can focus on the high end, we can focus on the low end, or we can focus on what's reasonable that the town can afford. And I think I agree with Ms. Castronellis that I think the budget is such that we could shift around some funds to pay for this position that I think the town is really, we're at the point where we need one. So I'd have to agree with her.
I'm gonna start out by saying, I don't know how many years ago it's been, but it's probably been about 6 or 7 years ago, when I first became a selectman. I sat in the now finance director's office, and we had a current selectman, secretary slash administrator, whatever you wanted to call it. That person was retiring, and at that point in time, there was a big discussion about who's gonna do these jobs of this person. That person did a lot of the work and what have you, and it was, we went on and on for a few meetings and what have you, but the short and long of it, there was no one in this town that could do the job. So I would be the one to say, I was the one that went out right out and said, listen, we have someone that sits in the position right now, why not, give a few more bucks and add the job duties? And one of them was personnel, and we had no personnel person in this town, and a few other things I won't say, but I'm like, they gotta be done, and what have you, and I know I wasn't, a lot of people didn't think it was a smart idea for me to say a few more bucks, but it was a few more bucks because there was more duties. So, that being said, back to what Kathy said a minute ago, yes, the town is growing. This is some literature and what have you that Kathy's put together. It's the first ball out the door, we're looking at it. I will agree with what Ed said, cost is a problem, but I think we can negotiate the cost down the road once we get going. I don't think we should be paying all the money, let's just see what we need. We don't know what we need until we get there and we discuss it and what have you, so let's not let costs get in the way of it. I will only say, without saying names, I've had a conversation in the last couple of days with the finance director, and there are some people in the town that hold positions in the town where they don't have any accountability to anybody, and she doesn't have the accountability. We do. We're here every 2 weeks. We're gonna hold an administrative assistant,
Town administrator.
no, we're gonna hold a, I don't know what the hell's wrong with me tonight. An executive session to have a conversation every time we need to meet with someone that is over and above and we're their bosses. So, that being said, I'm stuck on the point that a town manager now can pull them in the office, sit down and say, okay, we have an accountability issue, et cetera, et cetera. So, I definitely think this definitely is in the need. I've said it a year or two ago. I definitely think it's needed. I think we need to get the ball rolling. This is the first step. Thank you, Kathy, for doing it. Oh, I wasn't trying to narrow in on West Newbury. I was just trying to bring that out to the forefront. And I think that if we do it right, take bits and pieces at a time, we don't need to, and I agree, Ed, we don't need to burden the taxpayers anymore. I'm 100% in favor of you. I think we could do it, hopefully. Yes, I hope we could do it. Every time, I agree, every time we turn around, it's 5,000 more for the highway, it's, the fire chief needs more, but it's the times, like Bill just said, we're not with Navito anymore, we're now in 2019. We're dealing in a different time, in a different era, and town halls evolving, town halls getting bigger, and the town's getting bigger, so we gotta look at the big picture, but in the same token, I think we need to be cautious how we spend the taxpayers' money, and we don't, overspend, and I think we've done a good job of that as a board and in the finance board, so I'll leave it at that, and I think Mike wants to say something.
Yeah, I also want to add that the town overwhelmingly was in favor of the change during one of the surveys, moving towards the town administrator.
Okay. Anyone else have any, like, we're gonna say 20 minutes, and I think anyone else wanting anything to say about that? Am I short? No,
So
No, I'm all set.
okay.
could we move forward to planning, like at the end of August at our meeting, to put on the agenda to plan for a forum in the fall to open it up for input?
When you say a forum, what kind of forum would you want? Us
Well-
as a group?
Well, that's what I was thinking, is that we would create, as Ed points out, we need to get our ducks in order. We need to show what this position would be and what else would it be entailed underneath it. And what are the salary ranges that you would put on it, because that's what people are gonna ask us, how
Right.
much is it gonna cost?
Well, you gotta get a job duty before a salary range.
Well,
That's what
yes.
we need the forum for, and that's gonna take some time for us all to sit down at a table, and work that up. We gotta get the job title, the job description, all that put together. Once that's done, now you can start talking salary, you know what I mean?
Well, but when do you do the forum? I was just thinking that we
I,
should get it
we know
out.
the people want it. We've already done that. We've done that part. We know the town people want it. It's
Oh.
it's been voted, I'm not voted, but it's been through a survey and what have you. So, I don't think there's a problem with people not wanting it. I think it's a matter of us being able to put it together and execute it now. Am I right when I say that, everybody? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, and to Kathy's point, the next question out of everybody's mouth after how much is it gonna cost is, what do I get for it? So, this has to be a benefit to all the taxpayers
Right.
and citizens, not just taxpayers, but citizens in the town, to make it work. If it's not a benefit, then I can't see spending the extra money. We have
Right.
to make sure that
Right.
it is a clear benefit.
Go ahead, Ed.
You're also gonna have to take a look at, when you do that, is what boards and committees are you going to eliminate? And, you know, right now, if you did a town manager, town administrator, you may have, you talk about accountability, you have these people that are accountable to a board or committee, and they would probably no longer be under the control of that particular board or committee, they'd be under the control of the board or town administrator / town manager or what have you. So you may have to propose a town meeting vote to do away with maybe boards or committees.
When you keep boards and committees, though, why would we get rid of them?
Well, you talk about accountability, and
I'm talking about accountability to people that work here that make some serious money. That's all I'm saying.
well,
I'm not
yeah,
talking
but right
about
now,
committees.
right now, these, the people that work for the town, they are responsible for a boss. And I can think of water department. They are answerable to the water commissioners.
It's an enterprise.
The people that work at the electric company, they are responsible for the commissioners of the electric. The same thing with the Board of Assessors, the Board of Health. Are you going to eliminate some of those boards and committees that people, that they are their bosses?
That's a good point, and I should have been more clear in that in my summary, but my intention at this juncture is no. We've already made enough changes, and we moved the highway department from elected to appointed, so we have a fairly significant portion of the town that is reportable to us. They don't report to other elected boards, and the town manager would be responsible on a day-to-day basis for all of that, in addition to the boards and committees that we appoint, who do a lot of work on volunteerism, and may have needs during the day on recreation and need something addressed or taken care of right away. So, you know, you're right, we need to be very clear to those that are, say, part of the enterprise fund, water and sewer, that this would not, at this juncture, this would not impact their department or its operation.
That was all, not that I know you don't want to hear me talk about West Newbury, but that was all stuff that when they hired their town manager, that's what they kind of talked about. They isolated in their discussions, and they said what's staying, what's going, and that's when they got to that point, they reconfigured things, that's all. And we'd have to have that conversation down the road if we go this route, and we'd have to figure out what we're gonna keep, what we're not, and how we're gonna reconfigure it all.
And this would have to, after discussion, it would have to be presented to the townspeople. I'm sure it would require a town meeting vote and a vote at the ballot box.
I'm sure it would.
Well,
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on. Thank you, Kathy, for your work, and we'll put that in August for another,
at the end of August.
end of August, okay? Further discussion. Do you wanna, when the time comes, Kathy, do you wanna kinda do a little of what you wanna discuss that night, or do you wanna tell me what you wanna have at the whole meeting discussed?
Well, I think based on everything that everyone's brought up, and even the cons, and I'm listening to you, Ed, to try and bring that all together so that we can figure out,
It's hard
how
to
we
do that
wanna
in a
proceed.
meeting, it's hard to do that in a Monday night meeting, that's the point. We really need more time to be able to talk about this like a one-on-one situation than in a meeting like this. You need more than 20 minutes. You could spend an hour on the subject in one night and get nowhere. You know, not get it all done. It's gonna take some time,
Okay,
you
so-
know what I mean?
well, what is the task that you would like to accomplish? I was thinking the next task would be to outline the position roughly from the duties list.
Sure.
And then start to configure how it would work with what we already have without changing anything else, but that's up to you, everybody else as
Go ahead,
well.
Bill.
Should we form a focus group in order to study this more closely and then bring recommendations to the board so that it's kind of, you know, third-party, non-biased out of our purview until, you know, a more complete picture of what it would look like would come to us?
Okay,
I'm just asking the question, I don't say
I'm
okay
like,
or no,
okay.
I'm just, do you think that might be a better idea than the five of us trying to hash out
well, I think
at
that's,
20-minute intervals over the
Right.
next umpteen months? I'm
Right.
thinking for efficiency's sake, that might be,
What they did in West Newbury, they did exactly that, and then it got down to the point where the focus group did all their work, and then it ended up in the selectmen, at the time, there's 3 selectmen, they discussed it, and they worked it, each one took a piece of it, worked with it, and what have you, and then they narrowed it down to, I think he said 4 meetings, they discussed it, and then they finally narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. But,
Okay.
I mean, their first focus group went out and did all that survey work and said, do the town people want this, they don't want it, and then they did, they put some flyers at the West Newbury Food Mart, and they, you know, that was their focus group.
so I'm thinking if we formed it much like the fire chief, where, you know, we've got some people working on the ancillary on this project to bring the best candidate to us, or candidates. Maybe that's the for
Right, but I think
efficiency.
before we get to candidates and candidate, we gotta get the
Right.
actual.
I'm just saying,
actual-
you know, form it like
Right,
that.
right. Go
So
ahead.
in the past, the board has had like working group meetings. You could certainly have a night with just
That's what
this
I
as
was
the
thinking.
topic, if you don't want to add it in
Right.
20-minute intervals. You could
Right.
pick an off night and
Yep.
just schedule like a working group discussion amongst yourselves.
Right.
It would still be open to the public in a posted meeting, but you
Sure.
could just have that as your discussion topic.
That's what I think we should do, is have one night, or even if someone wanted to come in, if we could come in an hour earlier or whatever, do it on the same Monday night and just come in early and discuss that first part of it and then go into the regular meeting or something like that.
I just want to avoid doing it in 20-minute sound bites, because I don't think that's just
No,
going
I
to
agree
push the
with you.
project at
I
all.
agree with you. I was just asked to do it that way, and that's why I did it that way.
I just didn't want us to go for too long on this without figuring out what we wanted to do. That was my reason for asking.
No,
the question.
Do you think an
agree.
hour-
You gotta
an
put
hour?
something on paper, you gotta start somewhere, right? So
An
you've done
hour.
a Good job.
An hour, and the next time we meet, you think would be good enough?
Annette, I'm not here, but go ahead, do it without me maybe,
Might
You're
be
not
good.
here, what?
on August 5th.
No, I'm talking about, we talked about the end of August.
Oh,
correct?
okay, end of August.
I think Kathy's point was the end of August to plan a fall meeting. But if you want to do it in the end of August, your meeting is August 19th, or then September 2nd are your meetings.
So, whenever everyone can meet, I'm just asking, do you think an hour's time would be enough
Enough for what?
to discuss this topic of town manager?
10 minutes is enough to discuss it, but how far do you wanna go with it? I mean, you know, that's.
If we gave an hour that evening, if we just gave an hour toward it that evening, does everyone think an hour? Because obviously 20 minutes isn't enough. That's all I'm asking. You think an hour would be enough to get something done with it?
Well, how about a special meeting at some point?
Sure.
To talk about it.
I'm fine with
Instead
that.
of bringing, instead of a regular meeting night where it's gonna take, well, we're
Yep.
45 minutes here now almost, and, but maybe a meeting just to discuss that.
Sure.
I just don't see an hour being
You want
enough.
longer?
There's.
So like Ed just said, make a meeting night out of
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot in that basket,
I agree with you 100%.
and I think it's gonna take a lot more than an hour
So
to.
what, does everyone
search
want to
that
get back to
basket and feel
Denise and
comfortable
say
what's
what's
in
good
it.
in the end of August, 1st of September for a night to meet?
So we have a work
Sure.
session.
Well, you gotta start somewhere.
I
Okay.
agree with you. I
Work
agree. Do
session. Fine.
I'm fine, I just,
you want to do it on an off Monday night in the 1st of September?
whenever, I'm just of the belief that I don't think one meeting will be enough to.
I agree with you, I'm just saying to get one started, one
Sure,
meeting
anytime.
started, and do it on an off Monday night in September, the 1st of September.
Well,
Is that good?
September 2nd is Labor Day, so.
So the
I was
9th
just
is your,
saying
your off Monday.
What is it?
The 9th is your off Monday in September.
Okay, so September 9th
Is a work session?
as a work session?
Yeah, I'm not available on that night,
Oh,
but, how about,
So the 22nd,
well, you can,
23rd,
23rd?
oh, the 16th.
The
well, the
16th would be
16th
your
a
meeting
regular
night.
meeting.
Oh,
Oh, we could do on the 16th, what night weren't you gonna be here, Kathy?
the 5th of August.
Oh, August 5th.
You wanna do something toward the end of August?
Maybe the 16th,
How about December?
maybe the 16th, we could meet at 5:30?
But I think they're saying they wanna make a whole night of it.
mhm.
September or the end of August? Off meeting night. Denise, what do you got in the end of August?
The end of August, you're meeting
We're meeting on the 19th.
On the
right, the
19th.
19th, so the 26th.
How about anyone good on the 26th?
August 26th.
26th is, Labor Day is on that weekend.
No,
That's a
Is it?
vacation week.
I thought Labor Day is September 2nd this year, I thought.
It is, but August 31st is a Saturday, so you have, the first Monday is.
The
is that-
26th?
Is that week.
Right, so that goes into Labor Day
That
week.
runs into the Labor Day weekend, which is the vacation week.
So we're not available August?
I am not.
Oh, okay.
So what, if you go down another
So
time
the
in August,
23rd,
anyone
did you
available?
talk about the 23rd of September?
I
the
think Bill
9th
just
is
said he
out.
wasn't good.
No, 23rd of September, I'm fine.
No, the 9th was out for Ed. Does the 23rd work for the Monday, the 23rd of September?
23rd of September with everybody?
Yep.
Yeah, I got nothing listed right now.
Okay, Bill,
Yeah, good for me.
Mike?
I have no idea. Maybe.
All
We'll
right.
say yes, as long as everyone's paying
23rd of
attention to the
September.
discussion and questions
Okay.
that have been asked already, then we'll
At
go.
your normal
Alright.
6:30?
6:30, okay.
Does that work?
Work
Yeah.
for everybody, 6:30?
Yep.
Okay, got it, done. Okay, so moving on, we talked about the town manager. We are gonna move on to votes of the board, this, special event, common vehicle license for Jeff and Maria's Ice Cream and Food. That must be their annual. No?
Yeah, so I sent an email out last week. There was some confusion on the dates they were planning to hold their event. One was scheduled for last Wednesday. Their next event is Wednesday, August 7th. I had informed the board that I had given them the go-ahead after speaking to the police department. They had no concerns on the 17th. And again, based on your schedule and the confusion, I did not want to affect their business operations or have them lose any money. I told them and the board in the email that, and I just noticed a typo on the letter, that I would ask you to approve it retroactively. But I'm gonna actually, you can vote it and then I'll have you sign the license because I have the wrong date on it at your next meeting.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
did. So the
so-
date should be August 7th.
August 7th is
Not
their
August
date.
22nd.
Correct.
Okay, so can we get a motion?
So I can move the special event, the retroactive for Wednesday, July 17th, 2019, and ahead for Wednesday, August 7th, 2019.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, moving on, we have Selectmen's time and report, start with Mike.
I got nothing.
Bill?
We did have a meeting of the building committee last Tuesday. We talked basically about how the process will flow from here, and there was a lot of discussion surrounding cost and overruns and things like that. So just to put everybody's mind at ease, there are several steps that will need to be completed before the first shovel hits the ground. In January of 2020, at each step, the schematic design by the architects and the bid by the contractor are reconciled. X must equal X at each step, or the process stops. So in January of 2020, January, February timeframe, 60% of that will be done. At March, April timeframe, 90% of that will be done, and at May 2020, 100% of the bid documents will be completed. And at each step of this process, they get reconciled back to budget. There will be no, it's not legally possible to overspend on this project without going back to the three towns for an override. So just want to calm everybody's fears that people are hearing contingencies, plan, 10% contingency and things like that. Those are always built into contracts because you just never know. It's like opening up a wall. You don't know what you're going to find behind it. So there are built-in contingencies to take care of unanticipated events such as that. I know Groveland has waived all permitting fees for the building, and I believe West Newbury is looking into the same. Was that
Yeah, so we waive the fees of our permits, but if we require any inspectors to come in separate from the town, if we require engineering work, anything like that, the school project would have to pay for it, and that's the same as West Newbury. So West Newbury has peer review teams in place. Those come at a cost. Obviously, the bulk of the permits will be through West Newbury, so it's significant cost with their peer review process. All of their inspectors are currently part-time and work on a per inspection, or percentage of their inspection. So they have to figure out a cost for them, unlike here where our inspectors are working for a salary and they would just inspect during their work time. So there are some things to iron on the West Newbury permit side, but yes, for Groveland, any fees to the town, we waived. Anything over and above that, that would cost the town money, we would charge.
right? And as it's currently planned, all of the building, 100% of the building will be in West Newbury. The stadium and the stands will be in Groveland. So there's a lot less permitting, I guess, with our side than there would be with the building construction. Next meeting would be on August typically the second Tuesday of every month, so that would be August 13th. And at that point, I imagine we'll have more to report, but that's it for now.
Is that all you got for now?
So that's the only one I'm on right
All
now,
right.
but I can volunteer for more if you want. I'm ready to step up.
All right.
I didn't make the zoning because somebody didn't go fishing there, so I didn't have to make that meeting last 2 weeks ago.
All right, Selectmen time report with me. I'm just waiting on a couple signs. One to hear back from, one from Trinity to go up. Working on it. Hopefully the next day or two I'll know what's going on with that. It's been approved. They're putting Trinity sign together, and I've got to follow up with the police department, and I always forget the name of the place. It's in Georgetown. Neat Repeats. So we're still moving forward with signs down there, and that's going well. Ed, you have anything?
Just one, talking to Chris from the cable TV, we got new microphones that they'll be installed at some point. But in mentioning him, he was talking about that, came to light when Mike was at the podium, that when we turn to address Mike at the podium, we all turn and look at the podium, which you should be looking at the person that you're speaking to. But I'm wondering if the podium would be better in front of us, so that we're looking directly out, and then we're actually, our voice is right in front of the microphone, rather than, if you turn and look at the podium, where the microphone isn't in front of us. And I don't know if there's any cons on it, other than the fact that maybe the people sitting in behind there won't be able to see, but that could be, you could spread the chairs out so that the podium is in the middle, but I didn't know if anybody else had any thoughts on that.
I have no problem trying it for a week and see if it works better. We can always move the chairs back a little bit and put the podium in the middle toward the front.
Yeah,
you know?
move them to the side a little bit.
I don't have a problem. Does anyone?
Maybe that would take care of some of the problems with the voice when we turn and speak to the
Does it
person
have anything to
at
do with the
podium.
cameras? The cameras they should still pick the person up,
Oh,
shouldn't
yeah.
they? Okay. All right, well, we could try it.
Well, that's it.
All right, Kathy?
No, not much. I'll update that capital schedule with, I think you got, did Caitlin send me those payments or whatever? The debt payment?
Ellen, probably not. No,
Oh,
it's
Ellen?
been crazy in the office.
Okay, so we'll maybe look for that to be ready in the fall before people start asking for capital needs. We haven't really, we should kind of formalize, before people start asking for everything, how much money we feel is gonna be available, don't you think?
Mm-hmm,
Right?
hundred percent.
Okay.
You good with that? Okay. Okay, so now we move on to older unfinished business. We'll start with Kathy.
Well, we haven't visited the town buildings, but I understand that had to be delayed, so
Mhm.
that maybe the end of August, before that meeting?
The water department just asked for a few weeks, so I'm not sure what that means, or if there are other buildings you would like to visit, but the water buildings, they asked for a few weeks.
So, I don't know, I was kind of interested to see the
Can we follow up on them and, or they'll let us know when we can go in them?
Let me try for 2 weeks,
Okay.
5:30, 2 weeks. We were all set, but then we
I'm
ran
not
into some
here.
problems.
I'm not here August 5th.
Oh, okay.
Unless, those are the two buildings I really was interested the most to see, because I haven't been inside of them in a really
You,
long
could
time.
you coordinate that?
Well, she'd like to see those. How about if I try for 2 others?
On the 5th, yeah,
You won't be here on August 5th.
correct.
Well, those are the 2 that you were most important to you, so maybe we could try to do 1 or 2 others. And I'll see if I can't coordinate that and get to Denise and get it out to everybody.
Okay.
Anybody have any preference?
No. Anyone have any preference? Nope. That's good, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, Bill? Old unfinished business?
The bathrooms at the Pines look fantastic. They're open, they're operational. Are we having any difficulty? I've been in there a couple of times, they look neat, they look clean. Have we had any feedback about maintenance or dirt, or how's that going?
Yeah, so it's going okay. It's really only about 15 minutes in the morning. Steve goes through and sort of wipes things down, and then at the end of the day, he mops. I think it's not even 3 hours a week that he's been doing down there. We did have an issue on Friday that the pumps of the sewerage system for the bathroom specifically, we realized are not working, the alarm went off. There was a 1,000-gallon reservoir tank underneath, and then it's pumped up to the sewer system. So they need to figure out what's going on with that and why those are not working. But it's been empty. The company came in, pumped out the tank, and just dumped it into the sewer drains anyway, so they didn't cost us to haul it out of there. But we need to figure out why those aren't working. So, I mean, some little maintenance things like that that are sort of glitchy now that they're open. The cameras are up and functioning. So should there be any issues in there, any vandalism, it is on camera. But otherwise, they seem to be fine. The police have had no issues. They found no issues. And so far, there has not been anything major down there as far as messes or anything.
So I launched my boat last night at about 5, and I was leaving there about 8:30. The doors were open. I hadn't gone in there. I went in, looked, absolutely beautiful job. The highway department went out of their way. I mean, it was just, I couldn't get over it. And it was clean, it was neat, it smelled
Good,
clean.
it smelled clean.
Yeah, it smelled very good, and there was no messes in there. I mean, that was just one night, but, I mean, I couldn't get over how beautiful the place was. Not that a bathroom should be beautiful, but I mean, what a nice job. No, but I'm just saying, they did the highway should really be commended for their talent, the talented people who work in the highway department, and they really did a beautiful job.
Oh, absolutely.
I know it was a long time coming, but, I mean, it's done, it's open. For the reason why the pumps aren't working, I mean, hopefully it's something minor, I don't know.
The porta-johns, I haven't noticed, they've been removed, or
Yep,
they gonna stay?
they're gone.
And the last thing is, as I drove down there tonight, what is that, like crane hoist?
That's not ours, that's the cell tower folks. So they've been doing work on the cell tower behind us.
Okay. That's it?
So I was telling Denise when I met with her earlier that I only happened to be sitting down there while they were launching my boat for me, but anyway, the picnic tables are pretty smashed up, and she said she'll look into it. I just didn't want someone to get hurt and cut, but,
Now that you mention it, I was down there for a baseball game talking to the dock master, and he was showing me around, and it's in pretty, I mean, I guess in not too recent past, it was a very enjoyable place.
yeah, it was.
To picnic and just hang out in the shade, but the conditions on the tables have been deteriorated to the point where,
It's a shame, because they were nice fiberglass tables, and someone must have jumped on them and
it's a
broke them.
nice barbecue pits there,
Right.
there too. I mean, you know, it looks like a great
Because
place.
again, it's maintenance. You know, it's always maintenance, you know what I mean?
Right, and I will look into new tables. We do have cameras down at the boat dock and the boat launch as well. So again, if someone is destroying those, we will have them on camera. It's just one other thing, if someone cuts the lock off the gate, again, we have that on camera. So it's just some other ways to protect our property. So now that we have sort of the Pines area protected and the police patrol it often, we can invest in some, you know, new tables, and we're working on new docks, things like that, that we can actually protect and
Yeah.
keep some value to.
Our police department is crackerjack. We'll catch you if you mess up.
Yep.
You good with all your,
Yes.
Mike, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, starting with, I guess, I don't know where I was last time, I'll start with Mike. Other items not responsible, anticipated,
Nope.
Okay. I will say that, number one, in our last meeting, I kinda got a little bit of, not flack, but I kinda got a little bit of, some people were saying to me, why are you guys talking so much about one area in town when you should be talking about the volunteerism? So, that being said, I know the town of Groveland needs volunteerism, I know Denise was gonna update the website and what have you, we talked about that, but I know the finance board needs people. Do you have a couple boards that we need people on, the finance board?
Yep, as I told this board, a press release is going out, it was sent out today to our PR company, so it'll be
Right.
coming out in the next day with all the boards that we
Well-
have positions for, the three that are the most necessary, finance, zoning, and planning, and then pretty much every board and committee has a vacancy.
Okay, so we need to get some people out there to hopefully volunteer and help us out as much as we can. I know time is in the assistance, where everyone's busy in the world, but we could use the help, for sure. That was the only thing I had under that. Ed,
No, I don't have anything.
Kathy,
I'm all set.
okay? And then we have finance director's time.
A couple things. The Friends of the Library have asked if, on the evenings that the library is holding outdoor concert events, they have 2 of them planned for this summer, they would like to sell water and snacks on Town Hall lawn. We have not allowed it in the past, even with our Pumpkin Fest, we don't have anything sold. So I told them it would have to come to this board to see if you would okay them selling food and snacks. It would have to be packaged goods, I would say, if they're gonna sell it. But I told them I would check with you. There's, like I said, there's 2 events planned right now for the concerts on the lawn.
Do you have dates for those?
I do, I'll look them up, well, if you guys wanna discuss, I do have dates for them.
Have anything you wanna say?
I don't have any problem with it as long as it's packaged, according to health codes or whatever.
Okay,
It's fine.
Ed,
No, I don't have any concerns.
Bill?
Same concerns that Denise has, as well as trash.
Oh, good point.
So actually, Monday the 29th, which is not next Monday, is that next Monday? No, a couple Mondays, they have an event. And then I think their big Elvis night is August 26th,
That's supposed to be good.
are those 2 Monday meetings, Monday events.
Okay. Yeah, Mike? Water being sold? No problem. All right, I think we're good with it.
I was informed today that August 31st, Rich York plans to step down as interim chief. I told him I would inform the board this evening, but I asked him to give me something in writing, specifically because if he moves from his position, he goes back to captain. There is currently an interim captain, and what the plan is if he moves back into that role. So he will give me something in writing and provide some type of plan, but the board should start thinking about what you want to do come September 1st for an interim chief. If you need that on an agenda, I can certainly add that on an upcoming agenda for you.
Have we
Let me
had
know.
any new candidates come forward? No.
So we've received 2 resumes so far. Both of them applied the first round, and we felt they were not qualified. I will say, though, most people, just in nature, wait till the end of the posting
Deadline.
period to apply. I believe it was August 1st. It's open until filled with preference given to resumes received by August 1st. So I think there'll be not a rush, but I think we'll receive more closer to the deadline. But as of right now, we only have those 2 repeat candidates.
Thank you.
Some good news that 2 hours ago, the state senate enacted their FY20 budget. So it's now been submitted to the governor's desk for approval, so hopefully by the end of this week, the state will actually have a budget. We will know our state aid numbers. Right now, we're all just working on estimates, so hopefully that will come down this week. Tuesday, July 30th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Gardner Street, is it Street? Gardner Street? Yes, will be closed from Elm Park to King Street for road work. They will be grinding the road on that day. And then on August 6th and 7th, Gardner and Center will be closed for paving. They both will not be closed all day, but we're not sure which time of those days they will be out. But they plan to do both of those paving jobs on the 6th and 7th of August,
Which side of Gardner are we talking about?
from Elm Park to King Street.
Oh, okay.
So there is a message, I put it on our website today, it did go to Facebook and Twitter. I saw Pentucket School District was sharing it while Superintendent was here, so we'll get the word out on that. And I think, otherwise, I am on vacation the rest of the week, so I'll be back in the office next week, and that's all I have for you.
How was the, quick question, how was the repaving project on Center Street affected the businesses and residents? Have we heard any feedback from?
You ask a business owner, I have not heard. You could ask the person directly in front of the road work.
And is the road still open to local residents and
It's
businesses
dirt.
during the day?
Yes, so the
no.
businesses
No.
can access,
One end of it. Let me go back a step.
Washington Street side.
Washington
No.
Street, and you can come in, that way, but today it was blocked for most of the day, but Sunday, I was out there in the morning, and a lady was going down the road and blew her window of her car out. So they had to call our highway foreman, I guess, to regrade the road. It's no dirt, there's no hot top, so it's all
Yeah.
loose sand, and they're getting stuck and whatever. But today, most of the road was closed.
Yeah, I ran
from-
down this morning, it's just
It was
dirt.
closed, most of it, so. It's been tight, but I'm hoping the next couple of days it gets better. But it's not really affecting the residents, it's affecting the businesses, because it's all businesses right in that area, and the new people in that development. But they seem to be keeping a path for them people to get in and out from School Street. They seem to be keeping a path.
So the residents can get in and out
Into
in
that
case
new
of an
development, yes.
emergency, doctor's appointments?
Yeah, but now I believe they started cutting the trees down, all the dead elms, the highway cut down. I heard tomorrow the road's completely closed. I got a bunch of, like 15 dead elms. They started cutting them this afternoon and dropping them in the road to save money rather than have a tree company come in. So, I mean, tomorrow should be pretty good.
And one last question. Do you know how we got less than 24 hours notice that they were gonna close Center Street for 10 days?
the minute I knew, I told you all, I don't know.
I mean, if I recall, we got that notice about 12:30 the day before.
When I found out, you found out.
I just think that needs to be addressed. That can't happen. With less than 24 hours notice, it can't happen.
All right, so is it, where were we? We were with Bill and then Mike? Oh, we already went.
No, it was my
No.
time. We're good.
Sorry, oh, yeah, all right,
Are you looking for a motion to adjourn? Is that what you're looking for?
I'm getting there.
I'll give you that.
If she's all done,
All right,
you've got
you all set?
correspondence.
You got
I'm all,
more?
no, I'm
All right.
good, that was it.
All right, so now we go to correspondence. We have the disclosure of John Stokes of the ZBA member regarding an appearance of a conflict of interest. Jeff Gillen's follow-up notes on the meeting with Mass DOT regarding Route 113. The Highway Superintendent Rennie Carroll's FYI 20 goals. The ZBA legal notice for a comprehensive permit on Sewell Street. Minutes from the July 8th, 2019. And now, Mike, you can call the adjournment.
I can make a motion for it?
Sure, go right ahead.
A motion to adjourn at 8:58.
Second.
All in favor? I'm sure there's no more discussion. Okay.
And I need some signatures, please.